Chapter 108. Friends who still have monthly tickets, please support Dark Mountain. Thank you very much. This sage-like old man was the sect leader of Ling Tian sect, Xiao Lingfeng, Xia Yuyu's grandfather. When Xia Yuyu and Chen Hao had been in the ruins for 8 months, Xiao Lingfeng locked onto the ruins and personally came out to investigate. Using his supreme divine ability, he penetrated through the spatial barrier and sent his divine sense into the ruins, confirming Xia Yuyu's location. Then he used his divine sense to break open a seal and connect it to the spirit treasure clear abyss mirror, so that he could check on Xia Yuyu's situation at any time. Xia Yuyu's father, Xia Yutong, then personally stood guard here, waiting for Xia Yuyu to come out. Father, that brat really can't be left alive. Yuyu is currently in the golden period of cultivation. If her mental state is affected by that brat, it will definitely affect her progress. Furthermore, how revered is our Yuyu's status? Before he even stepped into the pugilistic world, he had already made a name for himself and attracted the attention of many genius disciples. If we can form a marriage alliance with the genius disciples of the Origin Gate, Heaven's Sword sect, and other super sects in the future, it will definitely be of great help to our Ling Tian sect. This brat's status is lowly, and he has been with Yuyu for more than a year. Although the cultivation method he cultivates is righteous, but if word gets out, it will have a huge impact on Yuyu's future. Shut up. Hearing Xia Yutong's words, Xiao Lingfeng immediately rebuked angrily. It's not wrong that you know how to maximize benefits. But do you know how these ancient ruins were created? The world of cultivation never lacked fortuitous encounters and luck. Who could ascend to the top purely by relying on one's own natural talent? For a true genius, although one's own talent is important, what's even more important is opportunity and luck. The ancient ruins in the world seem scattered, but they are inextricably linked. Father, I know. You only know one thing but not the other. That kid was only an emperor-level cultivator. Yet he was able to enter the ruins with a saint-level cultivator. How deep was his luck? The genius disciple of the Yuan Gate, Chu Qingtian, the genius disciple of the Sky Sword sect, Wu Ruochen, the genius disciple of the Misty Palace, Gu Xing, and the other disciples with great fortune. Which one of them didn't have great luck and endless fortuitous encounters to have their current achievements? Luck and opportunity were like a cultivator's advancement in cultivation. If you succeeded once, there would be a second time, and it would be stronger and stronger. This brat is only an Emperor Realm cultivator. So, it's impossible for him to be selected by the ruins. Obviously, he has some kind of lucky chance that neither you nor I know about. Moreover, he has comprehended the attributes of the 5 elements. That's why it's possible. Although he was penniless now, it didn't mean that he would be penniless in the future. Give him a chance, maybe a miracle will happen. Is that possible? Anything is possible. He did start a little late. But don't forget, many of the most talented disciples were recruited from these small kingdoms. Moreover, him being able to enter the ruins at the same time as Yuyu was a kind of fate in itself. If he killed this kid, it would be equivalent to cutting off Yuyu's luck. From then on, it would be very difficult for Yuyu to obtain great opportunities and great luck. That was the most important thing. Therefore, we only need to take Yuyu away. The final outcome will depend on this kid's performance. This way, the impact on Yuyu will be minimized. 3 days later. The sun was high in the sky, and the sky was clear. Gusts of mountain wind blew gently, carrying the aura of the demonic beasts of the Demon Cloud Mountain range. At this moment, a dense fluctuation suddenly rippled within a radius of 100 miles, and the surrounding space seemed to fluctuate violently. Immediately, dark clouds gathered in the clear sky at an astonishing speed and rolled down. The demonic beasts within 100 miles immediately let out roars of horror, and fled in all directions in terror. A fierce wind blew, and the energy of heaven and earth fluctuated violently, which was 1,000 times more intense than the change a year and a half ago. Boom! With a sudden explosion, a beam of light suddenly rose from a mountain peak, and went straight to the sky. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 figures shot out along with the beam of light as fast as lightning. Ha 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 ha, ah! A clear and melodious laughter, like the sound of nature, was accompanied by a wild howl that shook the mountain forest. The howl rolled and shook the surroundings, causing the dark clouds in the sky to scatter. However, the faint and melodious laughter of the girl, although very light, was not suppressed by the howl at all. How, your howl at full power can't suppress Yu's laughter at 10% power, hee. I'm only a 5th grade spirit realm, and you've already advanced to the divine realm. How can I compare to you? A young man who was tall and straight like a sword, with a delicate and handsome face, and a young girl who was beautiful enough to cause the downfall of a city, flew in the air, hand in hand, and slowly floated down from the top of the light pillar. These two were Chen Hao and Xia Yuyu. After a full year and a half, the two finally comprehended the 9 revolutions, heavenly yang earthine formula, and stepped out of the ruins. A year and a half. We're finally out. The two seemed to have a tacit understanding, and each said half a sentence. Yuyu. At this time, 2 figures like 2 shooting stars crossed the distance of dozens of li in an instant, and appeared in front of Chen Hao and Xia Yuyu. When one of the figures saw Chen Hao and Xia Yuyu holding hands, he immediately frowned, and a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. He fiercely looked at Chen Hao, and a majestic and terrifying pressure pressed down on Chen Hao from all directions. At this moment, Chen Hao felt his body freeze, and his internal organs were churning. Father, what are you doing? Xia Yuyu was startled, and suddenly opened her arms, blocking in front of Chen Hao. Xia Yutong coldly snorted, and with a serious expression, said without allowing any resistance, Yuyu, come here. Grandfather. Father is bullying Yuyu. Xia Yuyu had never seen her father with such an expression, and immediately looked at the sage-like old man with grievance and said, Yuyu, you secretly escaped from the sect. Grandfather can't help you this time. The sage-like Xia Lingfeng also looked at Chen Hao, whose face was red, and was obviously hurt by Xia Yutong's aura, and said indifferently, he seemed to have no intention of protecting Xia Yuyu. Still not coming here? Xia Yutong angrily rebuked. You're not allowed to hurt Hao. Xia Yuyu said stubbornly with tears in her eyes. Hearing Xia Yuyu's intimate address, Xia Yutong was even more furious, and wished that he could crush Chen Hao to death right now. I told you to come here. Enough. Seeing that Xia Yutong couldn't control himself again, Xia Lingfeng waved his hand and said, Your father won't hurt him. Go back with grandfather. Grandfather. Can you let Chen Hao go back with us? His talent and comprehension are very high. Although his cultivation is low now, he can already operate the 5 elements and comprehend yin and yang. He will be able to improve very quickly. Xia Yuyu looked back at the cold expression of Chen Hao, bit her lips, and turned around to plead. But Xia Lingfeng shook his head and said, Any existence that disturbs your state of mind should disappear from this world. Grandfather can only promise you that I won't kill him. From now on, you two will never see each other again. No. Xia Yuyu suddenly mustered up her courage and said. At this moment, she deeply felt the perilous waves in Chen Hao's heart. In particular, Chen Hao's expression, which was gradually turning icy cold, filled her with worry. Hiss. Xia Lingfeng lightly waved his hand, and a screen of light suddenly enveloped Xia Yuyu. Immediately, Xia Yuyu, who had comprehended yin and yang and had just stepped into the martial god realm, floated from Chen Hao's side to Xia Yutong's side without the slightest bit of resistance. Grandfather. I beg you. Kid, listen up. You and Yuyu are not people of the same world. You should already know that we are a great sect that surpasses the dynasty. Yuyu is a blessed daughter of the heavens. You can't come into contact with her, nor can you associate with her, because you are not worthy. Xia Lingfeng stared at Chen Hao and said, Grandfather. You. Xia Lingfeng ignored the struggling Xia Yuyu and continued. This is the truth. You might think that old man is heartless, but this is the reality. Let's go. How? Yuyu struggled and shouted, tears gushing out as she looked at Chen Hao. Chen Hao did not say a word, his expression cold. But at this moment his blood and chi churned, and his mind focused as he activated the 9 revolving heavenly sun art. Boom. The berserk pure yang true yuan suddenly turned into thousands of white rays of light that spread out. Xia Yuyu, who was imprisoned, also crazily activated the 9 revolving earthine art at this moment. Although the two of them were separated by dozens of miles in an instant, the heavenly young earthine art connected their minds. You wait for me. One day, I will use my strength to step into the Ling Tian sect, and no one will be able to stop me. Chen Hao's cold voice resounded in Xia Yu's mind. You wait for you how humph. Xia Yutong snorted and waved his hand to release a majestic energy that contained terrifying spiritual energy. With a boom, it forcibly cut off the telepathy between the two of them. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the horizon without a trace. Pooh! At this moment, Chen Hao, who relied on his tenacious nerves to support himself, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. However, his expression became colder as he clenched his teeth and clenched his fists. Cracking sounds rang out as blood spurted out from his fingertips and fell into the mountain. Bang! Chen Hao, who fell, violently bombarded the mountain peak with a punch that purely relied on his physical body without any energy. His fist pierced into the hard rock, and with such a violent force, without any energy protection, his fist instantly splashed with blood. Strength. Everything depends on strength. I want to become a powerhouse, a true powerhouse, and no one can trample on my dignity. I could do it in the past, and I can do it now as well. So what if you're at the golden core stage? So what if you're at the nascent soul stage? Chen Hao roared in his heart. He, who was born with a lofty character, felt a great humiliation. He didn't blame Xia Yu's father and grandfather, he could only blame himself for being too weak. Tao Scripture Secrets. Wait until I transcend yin and yang and break through to the martial god realm. I want to see who dares to look down on me. For an entire year and a half, Chen Hao understood a level that he had never touched from Xia Yu, a girl who was devastatingly beautiful yet pure like a little white flower. Originally, the martial god and will god realm were already legendary existences in his heart, but on Xia Yu's level, they were only ordinary existences. Xia Yu, who had already stepped into the martial god realm, was only 17 years old. On her level, she was a rare genius, but she wasn't an expert and still needed to grow. Third update. 9,000 plus words. Begging for monthly votes, begging for subscriptions. Many thanks. Chapter 109. This is the first update. Monthly votes, please give a monthly vote to Wuxian. It's about to explode. It's urgent. Please save me. Phew. I'm finally out. When Chen Hao calmed down and began to heal his injuries, the treasure-hunting sword spirit, who had been hiding in the depths of his mind for a year and a half, finally let out a long sigh of relief and slowly spread out his perception. His improvement is really fast. At this rate, he should be able to awaken that thing in a few years, right? I have to perform well. This kid is affectionate and righteous. He definitely won't let me live a life worse than death. The treasure-hunting sword spirit trembled when he thought of the time when he was in that thing. Those dark days were worse than death. He didn't want to go in a second time. Whoosh. For hours later, a stream of light streaked across the sky. Chen Hao's figure was like lightning as he soared into the sky. The journey that should have taken more than 10 days only took Chen Hao less than half a day. He appeared in the forbidden area of the Royal New Show Hall. After activating the identity token, a wave of fluctuation blended into the drifting clouds. A moment later, a strange wave of fluctuation enveloped Chen Hao. When he reappeared, he was already inside the Royal New Show Hall. When the old man in charge of opening the protective restriction sensed the fluctuation of the restriction, he knew that a disciple had returned. He was about to bring him in, but he didn't expect that the person who came would actually use the identity token to break the restriction. This made the old man think that it was an expert from the Royal New Show Hall. He didn't expect that the person who appeared in front of him was only a teenager who looked to be 15 or 16 years old. You are? The old man asked, a little surprised. No matter how hard he racked his brains, he couldn't think of when the Royal New Show Hall had such a young expert. One had to know that the sex protective restriction could only be opened by a person with a cultivation of at least the 3rd stage of the Overlord realm. How could the old man not be surprised? He knew all the disciples in the Royal New Show Hall who had reached the Overlord realm at such a young age. Chen Hao. Chen Hao cupped his fists and said to the old man. Chen Hao. Are you the Chen Hao who entered the ruins a year and a half ago? The old man's eyes widened. Exactly. Amazing. Third stage martial emperor realm and above. You're really amazing. Quickly go to the core arena. With your cultivation, you're definitely qualified to participate in the 8 Nations Rookie List competition. Maybe you can even win glory for our Jinyuan kingdom. Young and promising. Congratulations. Is the Rookie List of the 8 Nations about to begin? Chen Hao's expression changed slightly, and his eyes sparkled with a bright light. Yes, yes. In less than a month's time, we'll be leaving. Now, all the disciples of the Royal New Show Hall are gathered in the core arena for the final special training. Good. Thank you, Senior. Chen Hao cupped his fists and bowed. With a flash, he disappeared from the old man's sight. Such astonishing speed caused the old man's expression to change again. After being stunned for a few seconds, he came back to his senses and muttered to himself. That speed! I'm afraid he's reached rank 6 Martial Emperor? Even I, old man, am not that fast. Old, this Chen Hao is not even 15 years old. Evidently, there was no one in the Royal New Show Hall who did not know of Chen Hao's existence. The Royal New Show Hall's core arena. On the incomparably huge stage, origin power was wreaking havoc, and shattered rocks were swirling in the air. Even more shockingly, even though it was clearly a scorching summer day, the 100-meter-wide stage was actually filled with snow. This caused the entire arena to be enveloped by an ice-cold aura, as if it was winter. Ha ha. Junior sister Xiaowu, you're becoming more and more beautiful, more and more powerful. Not bad at all. This is the inheritance of the ancient city of drifting snow. Merely with this aura, you're qualified to be the number 2 disciple of our Cold Moon Hall. Don't worry, your senior brother, am indebted to the instructor for thinking highly of me. So I'll temporarily be the champion of the beginner group. Naturally, I'll let you fight to your heart's content, and I won't injure you. Helian Wuxia frowned. Her expression was ice-cold to begin with. At that moment, her beautiful eyes were filled with ice and snow. With merely her gaze, it was as if she had the ability to turn the life in front of her into an ice sculpture. Without any words, she violently waved her slender jade-like palm. Snow filled the sky. In an instant, the drifting snowflakes, as Helian Wuxia waved her palm, immediately became berserk. Like locusts, they emitted an ice-cold aura. With a buzzing sound, they covered the sky and covered the earth as they attacked Dongfang Jun. She did not show any mercy. In the past 1.5 years, in the days without Chen Hao, Helian Wuxia had been harassed countless times. If Fang Qing had not invited her and Mo Yui to join Fang Qing's small team, and if Huang Qi had not occasionally stepped in to protect them, Helian Wuxia and Mo Yui might not have been able to persevere until now. Helian Wuxia was still fine. After all, Dongfang Jun wanted her, so he would not go so far as to destroy her. However, Mo Yui had suffered heavy injuries several times. Under the huge pressure, she and Mo Yui cultivated even more crazily. Not only did they follow Chen Hao's special training for them, they even went beyond it. Every mission, every experience, they gave it their all, causing themselves to be on the verge of death. Finally, dawn came. She and Mo Yui rose one after another, obtained the powerful inheritance of the relics, and stepped into the emperor level. Only then did Dongfang Jun and the others restrain themselves a little. It's useless. Junior sister Xiaowu, let's fight hand to hand. Haha. Dongfang Jun said indifferently. With a boom, the valiant protective aura around his body blossomed. Purely relying on the protective aura, he forcibly blocked Helian Wuxia's flying snow sky. The snowflakes that contained powerful energy immediately dissipated, as if they had encountered a flame. Scarlet flame air-splitting palm. Whoosh! The distance of more than 10 feet was crossed in an instant. Dongfang Jun's violent and vigorous blue yuan power actually shone with a bright, flame-like light, like a blue flame with a red flame. In an instant he and his palm became one, and rushed to within 2 meters of Helian Wuxia. Scarlet flame air-splitting fist. Level 10 martial technique. Only cultivators who had comprehended the fire attribute could unleash its true power. When the palm struck out, it was like a roaring fire dragon, burning everything. When cultivated to the highest level, one could break through the air and teleport 100 meters. When the palm landed, it had the power to break mountains and shatter mountains. Its power was endless. Due to the restriction of Dongfang Jun's cultivation, although he did not cultivate it to the highest level, the power of his palm strike caused the disciples below the stage to be terrified. At the edge of the stage, Mo Yui, who had a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, was deeply frowning. A trace of worry appeared in his eyes that seemed to contain sharp sword rays. Before Hellion Wuxi, he had already fought against Dongfang Jun. Unfortunately, Dongfang Jun's cultivation was 4 entire levels higher than his. Before absolute power, he was simply no match for him. Dongfang Jun had already become a rank 5 martial emperor. Furthermore, he had comprehended the fire attribute's derivative energy. Furthermore, after undergoing the meridian's cleansing and marrow cleansing, Dongfang Jun's body had become incomparably valiant. Even though Mo Yui had obtained the inheritance of the 10,000 swords ancient city's remnant, and became a true sword emperor, he was still unable to contend against Dongfang Jun. Even though Hellion Wuxi's absolute power surpassed Mo Yui's, and she had also become a rank 3 martial emperor, she was still 2 levels below Dongfang Jun. Seeing that Dongfang Jun's fist was about to reach her, Hellion Wuxi's body suddenly floated down. In an instant, dense fog filled the air. Ha, you want to dodge? Break for me. When his fist missed, Dongfang Jun laughed heartily. Both of his palms faced the dense fog that filled the sky and suddenly waved. Containing fire attribute origin power, it instantly wreaked havoc in all directions. The fog attribute fog that Hellion Wuxi had formed immediately dissipated. This caused Hellion Wuxi to frown deeply. Fire and water were incompatible. When the water was strong, the fire would be extinguished. When the fire was strong, the water would evaporate. Before Dongfang Jun's absolute strength, Hellion Wuxi was indeed unable to contend against him. Furthermore, Hellion Wuxi was mentally unwilling to engage in close combat with Dongfang Jun, this shameless bastard. That was because she could imagine what the shameless Dongfang Jun would do if that were to happen. I've lost. After Hellion Wuxi floated far away, she spoke without the slightest hesitation. How could that be? Junior sister Xiaowu, we have yet to properly get intimate. Come, don't worry, your senior brother will definitely not injure you. Shameless. Hellion Wuxi's heart was filled with anger. However, she could only endure it. She did not wish for this shameless bastard to take advantage of her. This was not the time for her to risk her life. Although Chen Hao had already trained her in the 18 ways to defend against wolves, that was Chen Hao. Unless it was a real life and death battle, how could she possibly engage in close combat with Dongfang Jun, who had ulterior motives? Just touching her body would make her feel disgusted. Furthermore, Dongfang Jun's strength indeed exceeded hers. If she could not defend against him, that would be a humiliation. Hellion Wuxi scolded coldly and directly jumped off the stage. I'll get intimate with you. Right at this moment, a clear but cold voice suddenly came from the sky. That voice seemed to contain no emotions and appeared strangely. There wasn't even the slightest bit of energy fluctuation. Even the expert instructor on the platform did not detect any fluctuation in the sky. But at this moment, a handsome figure slowly descended from the sky onto the stage. This figure was Chen Hao. When Hellion Wuxi stepped onto the stage, he had already arrived. However, he was afraid that he would affect Hellion Wuxi's battle, so he restrained his aura and floated in the air. He stared at Hellion Wuxi, whom he had not seen for a year and a half, as well as Mo Yui, who was standing below the stage with a slight injury. The aura of the two people and Hellion Wuxi's expression when facing Dongfang Jun made Chen Hao feel relieved. In a year and a half, Chen Hao's height had already grown by half a head. His originally delicate and handsome face had become even more distinct, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. His complexion was like jade, and his cold expression and indifferent words caused everyone to deeply feel the arrogance that came from his bones. Chen Hao's voice had also changed greatly. It had shed its original immaturity, and was even more magnetic. Those who were not familiar with Chen Hao naturally could not tell that this was Chen Hao's voice. However, when Helian Wuxi and Mo Yui heard this voice, their hearts trembled, and they suddenly looked towards the sky. Boss! Ah! Before most people could recognize who it was, the cold and taciturn Mo Yui had already cried out excitedly. And Helian Wuxi, who was known as the Ice Beauty, actually trembled and cried out excitedly. Chen Hao! This is Chen Hao. So strong! Even Mo Yui calls him boss. Other than Chen Hao, who else could it be? Did he come out from the remains? Martial Emperor! The crowd suddenly burst into bursts of exclamations. Even the experts among the senior disciples frowned at this moment. Chen Hao didn't release his aura, but it was precisely because his aura was so restrained that even they couldn't sense it, that they were shocked. Even Dongfangjian, who was originally arrogant in front of Chen Hao, narrowed his eyes. First update. Brothers and sisters, please vote for Dark Mountain with your monthly votes. Today will definitely be the third update. Please. Wu Shan crawls away and writes with all his strength. Whether or not he can defend his chrysanthemum will depend on his brothers and sisters. Please. Chapter 110. Begging for monthly votes. I need them very much, urgently need them. Thank you. It's you. Dongfang Jun looked at Chen Hao, who slowly descended onto the stage. His face no longer had the same expression he had when he faced Helian Wuxi. His gaze was gloomy and his expression was clearly shocked as he stared at Chen Hao. It's me. Chen Hao's eyes were as bright as the stars as they shone with sharpness. I never thought that you would be able to come out alive. Very good. A year and a half ago, you actually dared to injure my people while I was in seclusion trying to break through to Martial Emperor. Humph. Today I Dongfang Jun will make you pay back 100-fold. Don't think that you can be arrogant in front of me just because you obtained the inheritance of the remnants and became a martial emperor. Go ahead. Aren't your sword techniques very powerful? Today I Dongfang Jun will compete with you in sword techniques. Clang. As Dongfang Jun spoke, he unsheathed his sword and his expression became serious. Although he spoke arrogantly, he did not look down on Chen Hao in the slightest. His sharp intuition allowed him to sense a dangerous aura from Chen Hao. Up to you, Chen Hao said in a deep voice. At the same time, he grabbed at the weapons near the rostrum, and an ordinary sword flew into his hand through the air. It can't be? He doesn't even have his own sword? Chen Hao's actions immediately caused countless disciples below the stage to feel astonished. The instructors on the platform also frowned slightly. Below the stage, Helian Wuxi, Mo Yui and Fang Qing, who was acquainted with Chen Hao, held their breaths. They never thought that Chen Hao would return at this moment. Even more so, they never thought that Chen Hao would directly step onto the stage and challenge the powerful Dongfang Jun. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the rank 5 martial emperor Dongfang Jun's battle power was comparable to the experts among the advanced disciples. Otherwise, he would not have been allowed to become the master of the stage to train the disciples who had obtained the qualifications for the rookie competition. This caused the three of them to be on edge. Especially Helian Wuxi and Mo Yui. I'm afraid that Chen Hao is in danger. Dongfang Jun hasn't even used a weapon yet, and his strength is already so strong. Moreover, it is said that Dongfang Jun's strongest point is his sword skills, which are unfathomable. That's right. Look at Dongfang Jun's treasured sword. That's second only to a spirit sword. This Chen Hao doesn't even have his own sword. However, this Chen Hao is definitely not simple. Since Dongfang Jun uses a sword, it can be seen that he is very concerned about him. That's true. Dongfang Jun's eyes gradually turned cold. He slowly raised the tip of his sword and pointed it at Chen Hao. His body was as straight as a sword, his fighting spirit rising. His white robes fluttered without any wind. Just this posture alone caused the spectators to feel an enormous pressure. Chen Hao, who was standing 10 feet away, had a cold expression on his face. However, at this moment he calmly unsheathed his sword. I can feel that you are indeed very strong, even though you have restrained your aura. To be able to make me, Dongfang Jun, draw my sword, is enough for you to be proud. Dongfang Jun stared at Chen Hao and said arrogantly and coldly, Don't blame me for not warning you. Go all out. Chen Hao said with a calm expression. As he spoke, he slowly released the aura that he had restrained. Buzz. Blue-colored origin power immediately poured into the sword, causing the sword in his hand to emit a violent trembling sound. Rank 5 Martial Emperor? Cries of alarm immediately burst forth from the crowd. Dongfang Jun's eyes also abruptly shrunk. His arrogant expression finally turned serious. Amazing! This Chen Hao has actually become a rank 5 martial emperor after being in the remnants for a year and a half. This is going to be lively. The instructors on the platform immediately looked to each other and spoke with a trace of admiration and excitement. Let's begin. Hiss. Dongfang Jun's body moved. Like an unsheathed treasured sword, he charged toward Chen Hao with lightning speed. At the same time, Chen Hao also brandished his sword to meet Dongfang Jun's attack. The distance of over 10 feet was closed by the two of them at the same time. In an instant, they had closed the distance of 2 feet. Hiss. Hiss. Resplendent sword rays were emitted from Dongfang Jun's treasured sword. Although they appeared slow, they were actually very fast. Layers upon layers of sword images appeared. Every single sword ray contained an incomparably sharp power. No one was able to tell whether the sword rays were real, or where they were attacking. Unfathomable. When Dongfang Jun attacked, he confirmed the rumors. He was definitely an expert in the path of the sword. This guy does indeed have the qualifications to be arrogant. Chen Hao thought in his heart. Even Mo Yui, who had comprehended sword intent and became a true swordsman, had his eyes abruptly shrunk. Before the nervous gazes of Mo Yui, Helian Wuxia and the others, Chen Hao finally unleashed his sword at the moment when the sword rays were about to reach him. Buzz. Sword rays gushed out. Simple, berserk, and without any fancy movements. It was as if it could not be compared to Dongfang Jun's sword skill. However, when the sword pierced out, with a ding sound, it hit a vital point and caused all of Dongfang Jun's resplendent and sharp sword images to miss. Rumble. The dispersed sword chi was like a bomb that detonated the entire stage. On the hard rock ground, a total of 18 deep and several feet long gullies appeared. Stone fragments swirled in the air and dust billowed. Although Dongfang Jun's sword was broken by Chen Hao, the power of this sword was so shocking that it caused many of the spectating disciples below the stage to suck in a breath of cold air. Sky-splitting sword. Dongfang Jun did not stop in the slightest. With a change of sword stance, it was extremely crafty. As if it was tearing apart the void, the sword pierced out. Its speed was as fast as lightning. Even Chen Hao did not expect the opponent's sword skill to be so fast. At this moment, Chen Hao felt an incomparably sharp sword chi locking onto his wrist that was holding the sword. Without any time to hesitate, Chen Hao's eyes turned sharp. With a flick of his wrist, sword rays instantly exploded. Ding 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 ding. Rumble rumble rumble. A series of dense sounds of metal colliding rang out, accompanied by violent explosions of origin energy. The figures of the two of them flew up into the sky, rising up and down. For a moment, they descended onto the arena, and in the next moment, they were in the air. Up and down, they were using speed to overcome speed, causing everyone to be dazzled. They were completely unable to clearly see how many sword strikes the two of them had struck out in an instant. Only the wanton sword light rumbled and rumbled on the arena within a 300 m radius, leaving behind numerous deep ravines. What a fast speed. Is there enough time to react? Too amazing. This Chen Hao's cultivation in the sword Dao is not inferior to Dongfang Jun's. So fast. This is not just fast. The stage is about to be torn apart by the two of them. Dongfang Jun is about to lose. An instructor on the rostrum suddenly said softly as he stared at the two rapidly moving figures. Not necessarily. Although Dongfang Jun has not condensed sword intent, his talent in the sword Dao is second to none in the Dongfang family. Even Dongfang Jun cannot compare to him in this aspect. Moreover, he has not used his ultimate move yet. According to what I know, during the Dongfang family grand competition half a year ago, he had already comprehended the Dongfang family's highest sword skill, the stellar sword technique, to the 13th sword. He has only used the 9th sword now. When he uses the 13th sword, it will be enough to defeat Chen Hao. Not necessarily. Right now, Dongfeng Jun has already been suppressed, and I feel that Chen Hao hasn't used his full strength yet. The sword skills he's using are even more bizarre. I've never seen anything like it before. It seems like every move is able to accurately attack Dongfeng Jun's flaws. Such exquisite sword skills are truly rare. Boom. Right at this moment, Dongfeng Jun suddenly activated his sword, bursting out a terrifying sword light, forcing Chen Hao to take 2 steps back. Dongfeng Jun's figure suddenly floated backwards, landing on the ground. His expression was solemn as he stared at Chen Hao. I didn't expect your sword skills to be so strong. However, it's impossible for you to defeat me. Now, I'll let you experience my true strength. You can admit defeat now. Otherwise, don't blame me if I seriously injure or kill you, because I can't control it. This was indeed the case. Although Dongfeng Jun could not wait to kill Chen Hao, the two of them were exchanging pointers in the arena. Moreover, Dongfeng Jun knew that with Chen Hao's current strength, he would definitely become the focus of the new show hall's training. He would also be one of the main forces in the upcoming rookie list competition of the 8 nations. This was related to the honor and face of the Zhenyuan kingdom. If he killed Chen Hao at this time, then even if he was a disciple of the Dongfeng family and a top genius, he would not be able to escape punishment. But now he had made it clear. If Chen Hao did not know when to back down, then he could not be blamed. Go ahead and attack, Chen Hao said coldly. His fighting spirit surged, and he was not afraid at all. Wait. Just as Dongfeng Jun took a step forward, and an incomparably sharp aura erupted from his body, a dignified voice suddenly drifted over. Before the voice arrived, the person had already appeared between Chen Hao and Dongfeng Jun. The rookie list competition of the 8 nations is about to begin. Both of your strengths are worth looking forward to. Now is not the time to fight with your lives on the line. The person who came emitted a valiant aura that directly enveloped Dongfeng Jun and Chen Hao. He said in a dignified voice, "If you want to compete, then do it during the rookie list competition. The rankings decide everything. That's all for today. Chen Hao, you will be the main challenger for the advanced group tomorrow. How about it?" Hua. The old man's words instantly caused an uproar. This old man was none other than precisely the new show hall's #1 expert. The new show hall's hall master. With the powerful combat strength that Dongfeng Jun displayed, he was only the main challenger for the elementary group. But now, the hall master actually let Chen Hao be the main challenger for the advanced group. Could it be that Chen Hao was even stronger than Dongfeng Jun? Even Chen Hao was slightly stunned when he heard the hall master's words. Of course, the 3 halls' chief disciples are not allowed to participate. With your realm and combat strength, it should be enough to the other disciples. Similarly, it's also a very good tempering opportunity for you. Dongfeng Jun, you'll be the main challenger for the intermediate group tomorrow. The 3 halls' chief disciples can all participate. Zhao Yunfei, you'll be the main challenger for the elementary group. Remember, you can't be seriously injured. There are still 6 days' time before we set off. Tempering is fine, but it cannot affect the rookie list competition. All of you are very strong this year. Old man is very much looking forward to your performance in the rookie competition. A soul-stirring battle was forcefully resolved by the hall master just like that. Dongfeng Jun was naturally extremely frustrated, especially when Chen Hao was the main challenger for the advanced group. Although he did not let the chief disciples go on stage, it still made him feel ashamed. But there was no other way. No matter how arrogant he was, he did not dare to go against the hall master. And Chen Hao was also extremely frustrated. Dongfeng Jun's powerful combat strength was undoubtedly a good tempering when he did not use his mental strength. He was also very much looking forward to what Dongfeng Jun's ultimate move was. But he could not see it for the time being. However, being able to be the main challenger for the advanced group tomorrow made him feel slightly comforted. Second update. Requesting monthly votes for support. Many thanks. Dark Mountain will continue to write the 3rd chapter. Please. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Chapter 111. Begging for monthly votes, begging for subscriptions. I'm sincerely kneeling, I really need please my dearest. Seeing Chen Hao slowly walking over, Mo Yui's entire body trembled. He was indescribably excited. Helian Wuxi's beautiful eyes stared blankly at the unfamiliar yet familiar Chen Hao. Her heart trembled slightly. She, who was in the prime of her youth, had an ice-cold and emotionless appearance. She was like an iceberg that kept people 1,000 miles away. However, this change only happened after Chen Hao molested her. In the past, after she was humiliated by Chen Hao, she had indeed always wanted to ruthlessly step on Chen Hao under her feet. She wanted to use Chen Hao to publicly humiliate her. However, fate had mysteriously brought the two of them to the same battle line. As their interactions increased, a subtle change occurred in her mentality, especially since Chen Hao did not seem to treat her as a woman at all. He even specially trained her in certain aspects. However, the more he did so, the less hatred she had in her heart. "Boss, you finally returned," Mo Yui said emotionally. Helian Wuxi only stared at Chen Hao. A rarely seen faint blush appeared on her ice-cold and beautiful little face. "Congratulations, junior brother. I truly did not expect that in a year and a half's time, you would actually advance to such a level. Right now you're even more powerful than me," Feng Qing, who was with the two of them, said in a natural and unrestrained manner. "I was just lucky. Senior's aura, you must have already advanced to the Intent Emperor realm, right? The battle power of the Intent Emperor realm is very strong. No matter how strong they are, they can't be stronger than you, a rank 5 martial emperor. Let's go, we'll talk as we walk," Feng Qing said with a smile. Chen Hao, who had just returned, did not know that in the past year or so, Helian Wuxi and Mo Yui had been in Feng Qing's little team. Thus, when he heard Feng Qing's words, he looked at Helian Wuxi and Mo Yui with slight confusion. In this period of time, it was all thanks to Uncle Huang and Senior Feng Qing's care. Otherwise, little Mo and I, Helian Wuxi said. "There's no need to talk about taking care of you. Your grandpa's personal disciples. This is what a senior sister should do," Feng Qing said with a smile. Then, she looked at Chen Hao and said in a low voice, "Junior brother, the Dongfeng family has become lawless because of the appearance of a peerless master. Even the royal family can't do anything about it, so, you should restrain yourself for the time being. You can't be too ruthless when dealing with Dongfeng Jun and the others. With junior brother's current cultivation and combat strength, you will definitely obtain a rather good ranking in the rookie ranking competition. In another 2 years, you might even obtain the qualifications to participate in the 100 Empire ranking competition. As long as you appear on the 100 Empire ranking competition, you will have the chance to become a supreme existence. At that time, no matter how arrogant Dongfeng Jun is, he will not dare to snatch little Wu from you." Cough cough. Chen Hao was originally listening attentively. Although he knew about the rookie ranking, 100 Empire ranking, and Dragon Transformation ranking from Xia Yuyu, he only knew that he had to go through layers upon layers of competition before he could enter the world of true experts. But Xia Yuyu didn't know the specific situation and didn't care much about it. So when Feng Qing mentioned it, he was rather interested. But when she said, "I don't dare to snatch little Wu from you," Chen Hao immediately coughed awkwardly. Helian Wuxi's face was completely red. She opened her mouth to speak but didn't know what to say. Mo Yui had a calm expression, as if what Feng Qing said was the truth. Chen Hao was too lazy to explain. This kind of thing would only make things worse. He directly changed the topic and said, "Senior sister, in the rookie ranking competition of the 8 countries, what rank do you need to obtain to be qualified to participate in the 100 Empire ranking competition?" The qualifications for the 100 Empire ranking competition is more complicated. The rookie ranking competition of the 8 countries is not the real rookie ranking competition. There's still true and false? The 8 countries that hold the rookie ranking competition of the 8 countries are all vassal states of the Xuanwu Empire. If you can obtain the top 10 of the rookie ranking competition of the 8 countries, you will be qualified to participate in the Xuanwu Empire's rookie ranking competition. Among the many geniuses of the Xuanwu Empire, if you obtain the top 5, you will be qualified to participate in the 100 Empire ranking competition. You are only 15 years old and still have a few years. You definitely have a chance. Xiao Wu, Xiao Mo, and I all have a chance, but we will definitely be 2 years later than you. A short period of 10 days passed by quickly. After Chen Hao was in the main arena for a day, he did not participate in the so-called arena training anymore. This was because all the disciples who obtained the qualifications to participate in the competition would be given special permission to choose the most suitable technique for them in the unique art library, according to their cultivation level. Chen Hao originally came back late. There were only 10 days left. If he wanted to comprehend a technique, even if he was extremely talented, it was difficult to do so. However, what surprised Chen Hao was that the hall master of the Royal New Show Hall actually directly removed the restriction on the secret technique manual that Chen Hao had chosen. This allowed Chen Hao to see all the mantras before he comprehended them. Chen Hao directly went into seclusion for more than 10 days. On this day, the sun was shining brightly. Among the nearly 2,000 disciples of the Royal New Show Hall, there were only 35 outstanding disciples who had obtained the qualifications to participate in the rookie list of the 8 countries. 35 people, including the hall master, 2 deputy hall masters, the gatekeeper Uncle Huang Qi, and an enchanting figure that surprised Chen Hao, embarked on the journey to the rookie list of the 8 countries. Whoosh! All the disciples of the Emperor realm rose into the air and set off for the powerful Tortoise Empire. Sister Fian, why are you here? After flying into the air, the enchanting figure that surprised Chen Hao smiled and went directly to the small group of Chen Hao, Fang Qing, Helian Wuzi, Mo Yui, and Lu Yunfeng. Fang Qing was obviously very familiar with this person and asked in surprise. This enchanting figure was none other than Yunfian, whom he had met once before. With so many free experts as bodyguards, Big Sister will go and join in the fun. While I'm at it, I'll also go to the Tortoise Empire to purchase some things. Yunfian lightly smiled and said in a very flirtatious manner. As she spoke, her beautiful eyes looked at Chen Hao without any misgivings. With a flash, she arrived beside Chen Hao and said, "Little junior brother, we haven't seen each other for over a year. Did you miss me? You've truly surprised me. I've heard that you've become a rank 5 martial emperor. Not only did your strength increase astonishingly, you've also become more and more handsome." Haha. That intimate voice and those affectionate words caused Chen Hao to have a headache. He was speechless. Fang Qing was also slightly surprised. She did not expect that Yunfian actually knew Chen Hao. As for Helian Wuzi, her ice-cold little face slightly frowned. She seemed to be unable to restrain herself from looking at Yunfian with a trace of hostility. "You must be little Wu, right? What a beautiful little girl. No wonder little junior brother doesn't even bother to pay attention to a great beauty like me." The extremely astute Yunfian was truly too amazing. With just a casual sentence, she managed to cause Helian Wuzi's face to turn red and her hostility to disappear. With the experienced and knowledgeable Yunfian accompanying them, even though it was a boring flight, Chen Hao, Fang Qing, and the others did not feel bored in the slightest. Every time they passed by a place, Yunfian would tell them about it. To Chen Hao and the others who had never traveled far before, this was extremely useful. Dongfang Jian, Zhao Yunlong, and Bai Lishi were the head disciples of the 3 great palaces. They were also the people who had the greatest hope of entering the top 10 among the 35 disciples. They were all rank 8 martial emperors. Chen Hao, Dongfang Jun, and Zhao Yunfei were the most outstanding. Although they had no hope of entering the top 10, the 3 of them were still young and had plenty of time. In the competition 2 years later, they would definitely be able to shine brilliantly. There were also Zhuge Qingyan, Helian Wuzi, and Mo Yui, who were slightly inferior but also had great hope. Before they set off, the hall master had repeatedly emphasized that their mission this time was only to participate. There was no need to care too much about their ranking. If their lives were to be in danger, they must admit defeat. That was because there were no rules or restrictions in the new talent ranking competition. One was responsible for their own life and death. Only by admitting defeat could one preserve their life. From this, one could imagine how intense the competition would be. I can finally have no misgivings. Chen Hao stared at the rapidly retreating mountains below him. His pitch-black eyes were shining brightly. From the Xiao family until now, although the cultivation environment of the Royal New Show Hall had changed greatly, Chen Hao still felt a sense of oppression. That sort of oppression was unable to allow him to do as he pleased. He had to be cautious and careful at every step. Just like when he faced the disciples of the Dongfang family. Even though he had countless opportunities to kill them, he could not kill them as he pleased. This was because both parties were restrained. Although Dongfang Jun was arrogant, he did not dare to go to the extreme. As for Chen Hao, he did not dare to do so either. However, the rookie ranking had no rules and would not affect the people around him or his family. This made Chen Hao excited from the bottom of his heart. After jumping out of the Jinyuan kingdom, he no longer had any misgivings. As long as he was strong enough, the Jinyuan kingdom would always be his family and friends' backing. Unless the Jinyuan kingdom was destroyed, no one in the Jinyuan kingdom would dare to touch his family and friends. For 6 days and 6 nights, other than the necessary recovery and meditation, the group didn't delay at all. They flew over 100,000 kilometers in the sky, crossed countless mountains, rivers, towns, and wilderness, and finally stepped into the vast Xuanwu Empire, which was full of outstanding people. Gazing at the sometimes undulating mountains, sometimes flat plains, and sometimes rivers and lakes, the disciples who walked out of the Jinyuan kingdom for the first time were all amazed by the rich, prosperous scenery. In particular, the heaven and earth spirit energy seemed to be getting thicker and thicker, which made these disciples feel the poverty of the Jinyuan kingdom. After several hours, a vast and majestic city that stretched as far as the eye could see appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Looking from afar, there were thousands of rays of light above the city, and the aura of treasures soared into the sky. It was many times more powerful than the Jinyuan kingdom's Deqian city. This is the capital of the Xuanwu kingdom, Longyuan city. It is also the location of the rookie ranking competition of the 8 kingdoms. The Xuanwu kingdom has a total of 32 vassal kingdoms, and 8 kingdoms form a group to determine the top 10 to qualify for the Black Tortoise Kingdom's rookie ranking competition. There are only 40 of the 32 vassal kingdoms. Every province in the Xuanwu kingdom has one. There are a total of 82 provinces, and each major faction in the capital has 10. In other words, there will be 132 participants in the rookie ranking competition. The hall master, who was flying at the front, suddenly turned around and said to everyone, "In the past 20 years of our Jinyuan kingdom, the one with the best results is Dongfang Ting of the Dongfang family. She is also the only disciple who passed through layers of selections to qualify for the 100 Empire ranking competition. Furthermore, she performed well in the 100 Empire ranking competition and became a disciple of a powerful sect. She is your role model. This time, our hopes are placed on Dongfang Jian, Zhao Yunlong, and Bai Lishi." Third update. The truly exciting world is about to begin. The painful low martial realm and the restrictive environment will also disappear. Passion is about to arrive. Brothers and sisters, please give your monthly votes to Dark Mountain. Please believe that Proud Heaven will soon be exciting. Dark Mountain will fight with all its might. Begging for monthly votes, begging for subscriptions. Please. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian.com to give your recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 112. First update. Begging for monthly votes, recommendation votes, gifts, subscriptions. Please, brothers and sisters. Hall Master, don't worry. I, Dongfang Jian, am definitely not inferior to her. Dongfang Jian said proudly. His words didn't have the slightest respect for Dongfang Ting, and even contained hatred. Tis. You want to surpass my aunt with that talent of yours? Dream on. Don't throw away your life. Dongfang Jun mocked in disdain. Now isn't the time for you to bicker. The hall master's expression changed slightly, obviously dissatisfied with the two of them. He continued, "This is also the last chance for the 3 of you. So unlike them, you must fight. With the strength of the 3 of you, it's not like you don't have a chance. Alright, after entering Dragon Lake City, don't go anywhere. Adjust yourselves to your best condition and fight for the honor of our Jinyuan kingdom." Isn't this Brother Zhao? Not bad, there are actually over 30 people who meet the requirements. Compared to our Deqian kingdom, you are only 10 or so people less. When you return, Don't be too little, huh? When Chen Hao and the rest followed the hallmaster into a vast and magnificent palace, the deputy hallmaster of the New Excellence Hall of the Deqian Kingdom, who was bringing in the registration information of the disciples, spoke to the hallmaster Zhao Xingchen with a smile when he saw Chen Hao and the rest. His words were filled with ridicule. Quality is more important than quantity. I'm afraid you won't even have half of them when you return. The new show hall master Zhao Xingchen's expression didn't change in the slightest as he said indifferently. The disciples of both sides sized each other up and unrestrainedly emitted their perception to check each other's cultivation. Their expressions were arrogant as they opposed each other with equal harshness. Zhao Yunfei, who was emitting a dense killing intent, directly locked his gaze onto the crown prince of the Deqian Kingdom, Yi Mingho. The killing intent on his body suddenly soared countless times and spread out as if it was material. Yi Mingho's expression was indifferent as the corners of his mouth curled up into a slight smile. He was filled with disdain as he gave Zhao Yunfei a thumbs down before turning his gaze towards the three experts, Dongfang Jian, Zhao Yunlong, and Bai Lishi. His meaning was obvious. His target wasn't a nobody like Zhao Yunfei. The competition hadn't started, but the smell of gunpowder filled the air. After Chen Hao's gaze slowly swept over the other side's more than 40 disciples, he was slightly surprised. The other side had more than 40 people. Not only did they far outnumber the Jinyuan kingdom, but their overall strength was also stronger than theirs. Fortunately, the top experts were equally matched. Really? Forgive this old man's poor eyesight, but I really can't see what's so good about you, haha. I'm getting old, so it's inevitable that my vision is blurry. When the results are out, I think you will naturally understand. Huh. Zhao Xingchen's voice was still indifferent, but the words he said caused the old man's expression to change slightly. I hope your disciple is as good as your mouth. Otherwise, it won't be challenging at all. Let's go. The old man coldly snorted and no longer acted like a hero. Seeing that the disciples had finished registering, he left in a huff. Soon, Chen Hao and the others also filled in their information, and followed the attendants who emitted powerful auras into the courtyard that had been arranged for them. Although it was a side courtyard, it was not inferior to a small manor. In addition to the high-class rooms, there was a meeting hall, a martial arts practice field, and everything else. Even the maidservants who served everyone were all good-looking and pleasing to the eye. After stepping into the side courtyard, Hall Master Zhao Xingchen gathered everyone in the spacious and luxurious meeting hall. You have seen the situation just now. In the previous Rising Star ranking competition of the 8 nations, for the top 10 spots, everyone fought until blood flowed. In every battle, they would think of ways to cripple or even kill the opponent's disciple. It can be said to be extremely dangerous. Dongfang Jian, Zhao Yunlong, and Bai Lishi have hopes of competing for the 100 Empire ranking. Therefore, you must fight, even if you have to pay with your lives. Without this kind of desperate fighting spirit, it will only weaken your battle strength. However, the others must protect themselves. If you realize that you can't defeat your opponent, admit defeat at the appropriate time. Otherwise, you may die here. Of course, if your opponent is not as good as you, don't hold back. Kill. Understand? Understood. Also, Chen Hao, Dongfang Jun, Zhao Yunfei, and Helian Wuzi. The 4 of you are young and have high cultivations. The opponent will definitely kill you by hook or by crook. The important thing for you is to participate this time. There will be more opportunities in the future, so don't be extra careful. MOU you too. Although your cultivation is slightly lower, you are already a swordsman. The opponent will definitely not let you off. Also, Fang Qing, Lu Yinfeng, and Zhuge Qingyan will become the main targets. Now, you must realize the cruelty of the Rising Star competition. This is not our new show hall's grand competition. Alright. Go and choose your own room to cultivate. You must adjust yourself to your best condition. Yes. Chen Hao and the others might have high fighting spirit, but they knew that the upcoming battle would be extremely dangerous. Therefore, even Chen Hao didn't dare to be careless, because he wasn't just here to participate. The next Rising Star competition would be 2 years later. 2 years was too long. Huff. Chen Hao, Helian Wuzi, Moui, Fang Qing, Lu Yinfeng, and the alluring senior sister Yunfian, who stuck close to them, chose a room that was adjacent to each other. After entering the room alone, they directly sat down cross-legged in the cultivation room and let out a long sigh of relief. His eyes that flickered with intense fighting spirit and radiance slowly closed as he entered the cultivation state. 3 days later he would begin the real battle. A battle without any scruples. The winner would be the king, and the loser would be the bandit. A battle where the strong preyed on the weak. There were no restrictions, no scruples. There was only the simplest and most direct battle. 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. A wisp of the fiery red morning sun slowly rose from the east. The core training grounds of the Empire's new Excellence Hall in the east, west, north, and south regions of Dragon Lake City were already filled with dense crowds of people. These people were all people of the Xuanwu Empire, who were either rich or noble, and had respected statuses. Moreover, a large portion of them had dual identities. They were important figures of the Xuanwu Empire, but their origins were from various kingdoms. Therefore, they had become spectators of the new talent ranking preliminaries of the vassal kingdoms. The 32 vassal kingdoms were divided into 4 groups. The top 10 of each group would advance to the true new talent ranking competition of the Xuanwu Empire. Little junior brother, do your best. Senior sister has high hopes for you. Although the top 10 is a little difficult, the top 3 of the group is definitely not a problem. When the hall master Zhao Xingqian, the 2 vice hall masters, and Huang Qi led Chen Hao and the other disciples into the incomparably enormous practice grounds, the enchanting senior sister Yunfian moved closer to Chen Hao's ear and whispered in a low voice. It caused Chen Hao's ear to itch, but he had no way to deal with this enthusiastic senior sister. Big sister Fian, junior brother Chen Hao's participation is important this time. Don't use your honey trap to encourage him. If an accident were to happen, it would be bad. Fang Qing, who was at the side, immediately pulled Yunfian and said. However, Yunfian smiled sweetly and stared at Fang Qing. She said confidently, "Little girl, you don't understand. Little junior brother isn't as simple as you think. Do you dare to make a bet with big sister? Big sister will bet that little junior brother can enter the top 3 of the group." Really? Fang Qing asked with a little surprise. She understood Yunfian very well. Her judgment of people was definitely many times more accurate than ordinary people. No one had ever won a bet with her. Using grandfather's words, Yunfian was a little shrew. What do you think? I know you don't dare to bet. Just wait and see, hee. Yunfian raised her charming chin and smiled with a trace of delight. Chen Hao shrugged and could only obediently shut his mouth. He didn't know what Yunfian saw that made her so certain that he could enter the top 3 of the group. However, Chen Hao couldn't refute because his goal was higher. Even at this moment, he wasn't sure if he could do it. However, he would do his best and even expose some of his trump cards. Everyone, today's Rising Star preliminaries will officially begin. In this division, the Qian Kingdom has 48 contestants, the Dian Kingdom has 39 contestants, Jinyuan Kingdom has 35 contestants, a total of 298 contestants. They will be divided into 10 groups. According to the information, the designated number 1 experts of the 8 kingdoms will be divided into groups 1 to 8. The other contestants will draw lots to determine their groups. Let's start according to the order of the kingdoms we just pointed out. At the end of the 7-hour period, the head of the arbitration team announced in a vigorous voice without the slightest bit of hesitation. There were a total of 292 numbers in the lottery box. Groups 1 to 8 had 29 numbers each, while groups 9 and 10 had 30 numbers each. After everyone had drawn lots, there would be 2 empty numbers left. It was very fair. The first place of each group would advance to the top 10 and obtain the qualifications for the Rising Star preliminaries. The members of the arbitration team were the Hall Masters and Vice Hall Masters of the 8 Kingdoms' new show hall. The head of the arbitration team was an expert appointed by Xuanwu Kingdom. The designated number 1 expert of Jinyuan Kingdom was Dongfang Jian. This was also the result of the previous year-end competition. Dongfang Jian narrowly defeated Zhao Yunlong and Bai Lishi and obtained the position of chief disciple of the new show hall. The lottery ended very quickly. Chen Hao didn't draw the 9th and 10th groups that didn't have any seated experts. He was in the 4th group. Helian Wuxia and Mo Yui actually drew the same group, the 9th group. Number 23 of the 4th group. Luckily. Otherwise, senior sister might have guessed wrongly. After seeing the number in Chen Hao's hand, Yunfian let out a sigh of relief. Everyone already knew the rules of the lottery and the order of the competition. The lot drawn had a group and sequence number. It could directly determine the order of appearance and their opponents. First group, Yi Mingho from the Great Qian Kingdom and Zhuge Qingyuan from the Jinyuan Kingdom, please come up. When the results of the lottery came out, the referee didn't delay and stood on the incomparably huge stage as he shouted loudly. What? Yi Mingho is actually the chief disciple of the Great Qian Kingdom? How is this possible? How old is he? Could it be because of the crown prince's status? That's not possible. After all, this is a real competition, and the Great Qian Kingdom wouldn't treat it as a game. It seems like Yi Mingho's combat strength is really strong. This disciple from the Jinyuan Kingdom is going to suffer. The usually calm and indifferent Zhuge Qingyuan had an unsightly expression. When he saw the number in his hand, he had the urge to vomit blood. Number 2 of the first group meant that he would be the first to go up on stage. Furthermore, his opponent was a seated contestant from the strongest of the 8 kingdoms, the Great Qian Kingdom. This meant that he basically only had one chance to go up on stage in this rookie selection competition. Anyone would be depressed if they were in his position. My brothers and sisters, monthly votes, please. If you don't have monthly votes, please give me a recommendation vote. It's a new week, and it's a little boring. Today the Dark Mountain will still fight hard. Please everyone, give me some encouragement and stimulation. Please. Chapter 113. Update 2. Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. My monthly votes are in imminent danger. I sincerely request my brothers and sisters to lend a helping hand to Dark Mountain. I can't thank you enough. Friends without monthly votes, can you give me a recommendation vote? Thanks. At the participant seating area of the Great Qian Kingdom, Yi Mingho took a step forward and left behind an afterimage as he appeared in the center of the 200 feet wide giant stage. The afterimage seemed to be standing on the same spot, but Yi Mingho's real body was already standing proudly in the center of the stage. It could be seen how fast his speed was. Just this small move that he revealed made many self-proclaimed geniuses feel astonished. Yi Mingho, who wasn't even 16 years old, had a handsome appearance with red lips and white teeth. His forehead was wider than an ordinary person's, and his eyes were as sharp as a sword as he emitted a proud and confident radiance. He was dressed in luxurious clothes and stood with his hands behind his back. Naturally, he gave off the aura of a king that stood above others and looked down on the world. This kid has outstanding talent, and is definitely not someone ordinary. To become the head disciple of the Great Qian Kingdom at such a young age, he must be extraordinary. That's right. That fulgurating shadows movement technique earlier isn't simple. It seems like there's no doubt that he will obtain first place in the first group. At the edge of the rostrum, a few expert referees spoke softly. Be careful. If there's a need, immediately admit defeat. The gatekeeper, eldest uncle Huangqi, took on the role of the instructor and patted Zhuge Qingyuan, who had an unsightly expression as he spoke. Zhuge Qingyuan replied as his eyes flashed with a trace of radiance as he jumped onto the stage. Although he knew that he would lose and that he might encounter a life-threatening situation, no one was willing to accept the humiliation of surrendering without a fight. Especially since this was the first match of the tournament. When the referee saw that the two of them were in position, he immediately announced the start of the match. Boom. Zhuge Qingyuan acted as though he was facing a great enemy as he instantly activated his protective aura and unsheathed his sword. Humph. You still dare to come up and fight? Your courage is commendable. Get lost. Yi Mingho spoke in a domineering manner. The moment he finished speaking, he took a step forward and actually sent out a palm strike from a distance of 300 feet. Even the air didn't have any ripples, but when most of the disciples with lower cultivation were astonished, a loud boom exploded in front of Zhuge Qingyuan. Ah! A miserable shriek was accompanied by a mouthful of blood. Zhuge Qingyun didn't even have the time to swing his sword, and was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. At this moment, Yun Mingho, who had unleashed a light palm strike, was slowly fading away. That was only an afterimage. One move, just one move. From start to finish, no one had seen Yi Mingho's energy fluctuations, but the battle had already ended. The outcome of the match was expected, but the process was unexpected. Zhuge Qingyun's internal organs were severely injured, and he was only left with half a breath. Huang Qi had a gloomy expression as he caught Zhuge Qingyun and carried him back to the Jinyuan Kingdom's region. After feeding him a dark green recuperation elixir, Huang Qi slowly channeled energy to help him recuperate. At the same time, he looked at the astonished disciples and said, "All of you have witnessed the cruelty of the rookie competition. This is a true battle. No one from the opposing faction will show mercy." Zhuge Qingyun's reaction was rather fast and luckily managed to preserve his life. Hall Master has already emphasized what should be emphasized, but what this old man wants to say is that even though it is cruel, if you are frightened before the battle even starts, then you will never be able to make a name for yourselves. Think about it carefully. After a brief treatment, Huang Qi handed Zhuge Qingyun over to the Xuanwu Empire's specially appointed attendant and sent him back to his residence to recuperate. Immediately after, the second group's number 1 and number 2 went up, and the competition wasn't affected at all. Huang Qi acted as the commentator and explained the characteristics of the various absolute arts while fighting on the stage. Of course, he also explained the horrifying absolute art that Yun Mingho had just executed. The Shifting Shadows was a grade 13 agility martial technique. When cultivated to the highest realm, the speed would be astonishing and like a ghost. It could leave behind 18 lifelike afterimages to confuse the opponent and prevent them from distinguishing the real from the fake. Yun Mingho might have only left behind an afterimage, but based on the speed that Yun Mingho displayed, Huang Qi determined that Yun Mingho must have cultivated the Shifting Shadows to the phenomenal stage. The first 8 matches were astonishingly fast. The 8 chief disciples of the various empires didn't encounter any formidable opponents and ended the battle in at least 1 move, and at most 3 moves. As for the opponents, 1 died, 5 were severely injured, and 2 admitted defeat. Compared to the dead disciple, the severely injured Zhuge Qingyun was still considered lucky. Yunfian and Helian Wuzi sat on the left and right of Chen Hao at the participants' seating area. When Huang Qi was explaining, Yunfian would pause for a moment. When Huang Qi didn't speak, Yunfian would explain to Chen Hao and the others in a soft voice. Yunfian was only a grade 4E emperor. Her cultivation might not be comparable to Chen Hao, but her knowledge was far from what Chen Hao could compare with. Especially the weapons and absolute arts of the participants. She had a unique understanding of them, which allowed Chen Hao and the others to benefit greatly. After 8 consecutive matches, because the disparity in strength wasn't that great, the matches became more exciting. From the very beginning, everyone displayed their absolute arts and fought with their lives on the line. No one was willing to waste time and energy because this was the elimination round, and it would continue forever. This would continue until the final victor was decided. The disciples at the front of the sequence all appeared. With the disparity in strength of the Jinyuan Kingdom, there were more victories than losses. Of the 18 people that appeared, only Zhao Yunlong, Zhao Yunfei, Dongfang Jun and Bai Lishi won. As for the other 14 people, they were all defeated. 4 died and 10 were seriously injured and unconscious. A bitter aura and a dense smell of blood filled the entire martial practice field. Many of the disciples that had yet to go on stage all had grave expressions on their faces. 4th group, number 17 Jingyan Kingdom's Ran Miao Miao and number 18 Jinyuan Kingdom's Fang Qing. Please come on stage. The referee's loud and clear voice resonated through the entire martial practice field. Ran Miao Miao? Huang Qi took a glance at the information of the participating disciples in his hand, and his expression changed slightly. He looked at Fang Qing and said, "Fang Qing, be careful. Do not force yourself. If necessary, immediately admit defeat. That Ran Miao Miao is a rank 6 martial emperor. She is most definitely a disciple of the Jingyan Kingdom's number 1 family, the Ran family. Her battle power cannot be looked down upon. Although your battle power is very strong as a rank 3 martial emperor, it is not very possible for you to surpass 3 levels of cultivation to defeat her. Furthermore, she will definitely do everything she can to kill you. Senior sister, be careful. Chun Hao and Helian Wuxi also said in a low voice. The taciturn Moue only used his eyes that did not know how to speak to express his concern. Lil Qing, you must not force yourself. Now is not the time for you to stand out. Understand? Yanfian said. Amen. Feng Qing's misty eyes shone with a radiant light. Her body slowly rose into the air and landed on the stage. Feng Qing had an elegant and refined temperament. She had jade-like bones and icy skin. Her figure was very graceful. Furthermore, her unique aura gave her a unique charm. Especially her hazy eyes that seemed to be covered with a faint mist, they were very alluring. She could definitely be considered to be a first-rate beauty. As for Feng Qing's opponent, the rank 6 martial emperor Ran Miao Miao, she was also an exceptionally beautiful young woman. When the two great beauties appeared on the stage at the same time, it caused a breath of fresh air to be injected into the martial practice ground that was filled with the stench of blood. The eyes of many people started to shine. Feng Qing had a serious expression on her face. As for Ran Miao Miao, the corners of her mouth rose into a faint and enchanting smile. Merely, the battle intent and cold aura in her eyes were something that anyone could see. Match begin. Following the loud shout from the referee, a pure and boundless spirit power shone from the center of Feng Qing's brows. It formed layers upon layers of spirit power several meters around her. She did not seek to win. She only sought not to make any mistakes. Even though her opponent was only a rank 6 martial emperor, she was a disciple of Jingyan Empire's #1 clan. With a difference of 3 levels of cultivation between them, even Feng Qing herself knew that she had no chance of victory. This battle could only be considered as a form of tempering. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. To everyone's surprise, Ran Miao Miao actually flicked her wrist and shot out countless resplendent sword rays. In an instant, the area 10 meters around Feng Qing was completely covered by sword rays. Even more shockingly, Ran Miao Miao's sword rays seemed to have formed an enormous sword net of light that sealed off all of Feng Qing's escape routes. The boundless origin energy contained within the sword rays had formed something similar to a protective aura. Not good. Huang Qi's expression immediately changed. He stood up in shock. In practically an instant, Huang Qi discovered his opponent's intention. Yanfian's expression also changed. A trace of fear immediately flashed through her charming eyes. So ruthless. Huang Qi and Yanfian said at practically the same time. At the beginning, Chun Hao was stunned. However, after an instant, his expression turned cold. His sharp and powerful perception spread over. Chun Hao clearly sensed that at this moment, his opponent's sword rays that contained boundless origin energy seemed to have formed a barrier around Feng Qing's body. Even if Feng Qing wanted to admit defeat, she would likely be drowned by the rumbling sounds of the explosion. Similarly, no one could see Feng Qing's movements. Unable to survive. In her nervousness, Yanfian involuntarily grabbed onto Chun Hao's arm. Feng Qing was her master Feng Yuan's most beloved granddaughter. If she were to die in battle, however, there was no one who could help Feng Qing right now. Whether or not she could escape would depend on herself. No one had expected that Ran Miao Miao, who was only a rank 6 martial emperor, would be so powerful. Meteor sword. Bang. Ran Miao Miao took a step forward and fused with her sword. A resplendent blue light flashed through the sky like a shooting star. In a flash, she rushed into the sword net. In the air, she was swinging her sword non-stop. Boom. 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 Within 30 meters of Feng Qing, rocks were flying, dust was billowing, and sword rays were dazzling. However, Ran Miao Miao's sword was like a ferocious machine gun. Feng Qing, who was surrounded by sword rays, pushed her mental strength to the limit. The space between her eyebrows shined brightly and her palms, which were filled with mental strength, madly clapped. She had never been in such a dangerous situation of being on the verge of death. Not to mention that the judge would not be able to hear her if she were to admit defeat. She would not even have the time to shout. Likely, by the time she shouted, her heart would have already been pierced by 10,000 swords. Puff! At this moment of imminent peril, Feng Qing's misty eyes shone with determination. A thin and cold blue light quickly flew out from her storage ring. It was actually a 3-inch-long needle-shaped object made of special materials. Feng Qing clenched her 3 fingers and clenched her teeth. With a puff, it pierced into her own head. Ah! A piercing pain that came from the depths of her soul caused Feng Qing to let out an earth-shattering scream. Her scream was filled with boundless pain and mournfulness. Lil Qing! Yanfian immediately cried out in fear. Huang Qi's expression changed greatly. Feng Qing's old partner, Lu Yinfeng, had an even paler complexion. His expression was terrifyingly sinister, and he was gnashing his teeth so hard that creaking sounds could be heard. Practically everyone thought that Feng Qing had already been killed. Second update. Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. I beg everyone. Monthly votes for new books are very important. Dark Mountain True Heart urgently needs them. Furthermore, our recommendation votes are truly too shabby. I beg everyone to click on the recommendation button after reading it. Thank you. If you like this novel, I welcome you to come to Qidian. Chapter 114. Third update. Pitiful. With only 5 monthly votes and less than 200 recommendation votes. Crying. Dear friends, is this all we have? Don't hesitate anymore. Vote for Dark Mountain. This is the source of Dark Mountain's motivation. Everyone should know that Dark Mountain is very, very thin-skinned. Every day, he would put his face in his pocket with every chapter. He would shamelessly beg for monthly votes, recommendations, rewards, subscriptions. You can imagine just how important this was to Dark Mountain. Really, this is the source of Dark Mountain's motivation. Brothers and sisters, oh God, give Dark Mountain passion. Pung 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 pung. The moment Feng Qing screamed, the barrier formed by the powerful sword net suddenly let out a dense and terrifying explosion sound. It exploded in all directions, and an earth-shattering spiritual pressure spread out in all directions like a flash flood. Feng Qing appeared in front of everyone's eyes, her white robe fluttering in the wind, and her beautiful hair fluttering in the wind. Her originally elegant and refined little face was now red, and even her eyes were shining with a crimson light. Go to hell. Ran Miao Miao, who had become one with her sword, was only stopped for a moment. She once again advanced, and with a shout, she stabbed out with her sword. The brilliant sword light was incomparably swift and fierce. Feng Qing, who had just broken through the sword net, suffered a soul-tearing pain. She didn't have time to think. She slapped out with her palm towards the sword light that was already in front of her chest. At the same time, she abruptly activated her spiritual power and used all her strength to explosively retreat. Pung. Pooh. An arrow of blood dyed the sky red, and Feng Qing was sent flying out of the ring. Consider yourself lucky. Ran Miao Miao wiped the trace of blood from the corner of her mouth and said viciously. Feng Qing, who was a third-stage intent emperor, was only 18 years old. This kind of genius disciple was definitely a target that all the opposing forces wanted to kill. Killing one of them would reduce the opponent's strength in the future rookie competition. When she saw Feng Qing's information, Ran Miao Miao had already determined that Feng Qing would die. But she didn't expect that Feng Qing would use some kind of secret technique to increase her strength by 1-fold. She forcefully swung her sword away, and only heavily injured her shoulder. She used the force to explosively retreat, avoiding her fatal attack. Xiaoqing. When Huang Qi was about to make a move, Yanfian and Lu Yinfeng had already leaped out. They turned into a ray of light and directly caught the severely injured Feng Qing. Chen Hao, Helian Wuzi and Mo Yui also quickly came to Feng Qing's side. Without saying a word, Yin Fei Yan blocked Huang Qi's healing pill and directly took out a crystal-clear, dark green, jujube-sized pill. It was obviously several times higher grade than Huang Qi's and stuffed it into Feng Qing's mouth. At the same time, she covered Feng Qing with her body and crushed a white pill into powder before applying it to Feng Qing's injured shoulder. The red light in Feng Qing's eyes gradually disappeared. She slowly closed her eyes and fell into a coma. She's fine, don't worry. Yunfian held Fangqing in her arms and said to the crowd. After that, her slender, jade-like hand gently touched Fangqing's head with a slight tremble. With a hiss, she pulled out the 3-inch-long needle at lightning speed. Helian Wuxia and Mo Yui were dumbstruck and shocked. Little junior brother, you're in the same group as Xiaoqing. When you encounter that woman, you must be careful. Xiaoqing is a peak rank 3 intent emperor. If she didn't use the golden needle soul-piercing technique, I'm afraid that she would have already. Yunfian looked at Chen Hao and said with a serious expression. Chen Hao frowned slightly. The golden needle soul-piercing technique is a secret technique that master possesses. You haven't started cultivating it yet. Thus, I haven't taught it to you yet. It's extremely powerful and can instantly increase your strength by 2 ranks. However, after using it, there will be a very serious backlash. Your divine soul will be injured and you won't be able to recover without half a year's time. It can only be used in a life and death situation. Xiaoqing's attack is definitely comparable to that of a rank 5 intent emperor. Without the cultivation of a rank 7 martial emperor, it's impossible to injure a rank 5 intent emperor. Thus, you must be careful. Amen. Chen Hao took a glance at Fangqing's pale face and nodded. He did not say anything else. However, a trace of sharpness flashed through the depths of his black eyes. The cruel and bloody battle continued. The Jinyuan kingdom seemed to have run into misfortune. Their strength was definitely above average among all the disciples. However, the opponents they encountered were stronger than them. Following that, several people went up to fight. Yet, not a single one of them won. Furthermore, they paid the price of another life. The others were all injured. Furthermore, the majority of them were seriously injured. It was only when Lu Yunfeng stepped onto the stage that they finally obtained a hard-won victory. Lu Yunfeng, a rank 3 intent emperor, managed to defeat a rank 6 martial emperor. Although he won, it was a very bitter victory. Perhaps it was because of Fangqing's serious injury. The quiet, cultured and refined Lu Yunfeng, who had been following beside Fangqing the entire time, seemed to have gone crazy. Especially after he found out that his opponent was from the Jingyan Empire. He immediately inserted a 3-inch-long needle into his own head at the start of the battle. Jingyan Empire's rank 6 martial emperor dead. Zhang Yunshan landed in the middle of the stage. A sharp killing intent immediately filled the air. The gaze with which he looked at Chen Hao with was as if he was looking at a dead object. It was incomparably domineering. Match begin. Clang. Boom. Boom. Following the voice of the referee, Zhang Yunshan unsheathed his sword. He stomped his feet and a brilliant sword ray shot toward Chen Hao. He had increased his origin power to the pinnacle the moment he attacked. He was planning to kill Chen Hao with a single strike. However, Chen Hao did not move from his original location. With a flash of light in his hand, he took a step forward. His body suddenly turned into a blur before the eyes of the crowd. His afterimage was still standing proudly. However, the other Chen Hao bent his knees and bent his body. His right hand streaked across the air in a beautiful trajectory. Then, an azure ray of light suddenly shot out explosively like a polar light. Hiss. After crossing a third of the distance between the two, before Zhang Yunshan could even approach Chen Hao, his hair suddenly stood on end. His pupils shrunk, and he let out a shout filled with fear and anger. Then he abruptly brandished his sword to block the incoming attack. Ding. Boom. Pooh. 3 distinctly different sounds exploded at practically the same time. After that, the crowd only saw Chen Hao making a grabbing motion in the air. Then the azure ray of light that resembled a polar light streaked across the air and returned to his hand. As for Zhang Yunshan, who was frantically brandishing his sword, he was still rapidly approaching Chen Hao. However, after running a distance of 10 feet, a stream of blood spurted out from his throat. Thump, thump, thump. When Zhang Yunshan was about to reach Chen Hao, he fell before Chen Hao. His eyes were wide open. They were filled with anger and fear. He opened his mouth wanting to say something. However, other than the sound of his blood spurting out, he was unable to make any other sound. His pupils slowly dilated. Without giving the crowd time to gasp in shock, Chen Hao, who did not seem to have fought at all, soared into the sky with a cold expression on his face and flew back to his position. Flying daggers. He actually used flying daggers? So powerful. He had clearly blocked the attack successfully. How did he manage to hit his throat? Isn't this Chun Hao a rank 5 martial emperor? Could it be that his origin power is so much stronger than a rank 6 martial emperor's? Impossible. His control over his origin power has most definitely reached the microscopic realm. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to have failed to block the attack. The crowd burst into an uproar. No one was not shocked. Before Chun Hao appeared, he was already a thorn in the eyes of the various empires. A 15-year-old rank 5 martial emperor. Although he was weak now, what about in the future? Who would dare to look down on him? And now, Chun Hao had killed a rank 6 martial emperor in a clean and efficient manner. It could be said that he had effortlessly killed a rank 6 martial emperor. Furthermore, he was a genius with very strong battle power. This was truly too shocking. It was not only the people from the other great kingdoms that were shocked. Even Huangqi Yunfian and the people from the Jinyuan kingdom were shocked. Likely, only Helian Wuxia and Mo Yui, who knew Chun Hao the most, were a bit calmer. Not bad. For such a super genius to be able to fall by my hands, it can be said that he has died a worthy death. In the participant area of the Star Luo Kingdom, one of the 8 great kingdoms, there was a feminine youth sitting at the very front. He narrowed his eyes as he gazed at Chun Hao, who was flying down from the stage, and spoke in a soft eunuch voice. This youngster was the 4th group-seated participant, the head disciple of the Star Luo Kingdom's new show hall. Yin Fenghan, a peak rank 8 martial emperor. He was 20 years old. In the previous preliminaries of the 8 nations' new prodigy ranking, he had entered the top 10 with the cultivation of a rank 5 martial emperor. Although there was more or less an element of luck involved, his battle power was extremely strong. Now 2 years later, what sort of battle power did he, a rank 8 martial emperor, possess? The 100 empire rankings was his goal. P.S. Can you give me a monthly vote or a recommendation vote? Thank you. Chapter 115. First update. Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. Thank you to the friends who have supported Dark Mountain in the past 2 days. I will not list them. I'm afraid that people will say that I'm making up the word count. Dark Mountain will remember this and send monthly public thanks. Thank you everyone. How is this boy? At the very end of the viewing platform, at the highest edge, were 2 youths around 18 years old. They were lazily leaning on the railing as they looked down at the stage. When Chun Hao instantly defeated his opponent, one of the youths narrowed his eyes and asked. This youth was small and skinny. He had an ordinary appearance. Although he was also wearing luxurious silver clothes, he did not seem luxurious at all. Instead, he seemed like a waiter in a hotel. His appearance, aura and clothes, he was definitely the type of person that would be drowned out in a crowd. That was because even his gaze was very ordinary. There was not the slightest trace of the aura of an expert. However, the symbol and color on his right chest proved his identity. He was the head disciple of the Xuanwu Empire's new show hall, one of the 5 great palaces, the White Tiger Hall. He's SOO. Perhaps he's on par with me 2 years ago. What's wrong? Could it be that you're interested? The other handsome youth said lazily. The symbol and color on this youth's chest made it clear that he was the head disciple of the Azure Dragon Hall. I can't say that I'm interested. His cultivation is too low. However, I would like to see how profound his flying blade technique is. The ordinary-looking youth frowned and said with narrowed eyes. Even he was unable to determine what sort of profoundness Chun Hao's stunning flying blade technique contained. You won't have the chance. The 4th group's opponent should be Yin Fenghan. He might even have the chance to become our opponent. The strength of the vassal states this time is pretty good. It seems that we will have to pay more attention to them. Ding, ding, boom, boom, boom. Mo Yui, who was at the end of the line, finally stepped onto the stage. His opponent was a rank 3 martial emperor from the Great Qian Kingdom. When that guy saw that Mo Yui was only a rank 1 martial emperor, his confidence soared. He wanted to kill Mo Yui with his sword. However, once he stepped onto the stage, Mo Yui's incomparably sharp sword intent wreaked havoc. With a single move, he gained the absolute advantage. His sword strikes were extremely sharp and crafty. They were all deadly, causing his opponent to be in a completely passive state. It was only a level 9 sword skill, Heartless Sword. In the hands of a swordsman like Moue, had achieved true ruthlessness. However, even though that rank 3 martial emperor was completely suppressed, his vigorous origin energy greatly surpassed Moue's. Thus, that rank 3 martial emperor did not plan to admit defeat at all. He believed that as long as he could persist for a couple more minutes, when Moue's incomparably sharp sword techniques were used up, it would be the time for him to counterattack. But Dai Wang Moue, who had always been weaker in terms of origin energy, suddenly narrowed his eyes. The large sword in his hand let out a short humming sound, and a bright golden light flashed out. An incomparably sharp and invincible energy appeared in Moue's sword, as fast as lightning. Puff bang! Chu Feng's sword pierced through that rank 3 martial emperor's roar. Then, with a sudden twist, a bloody head rolled out from that rank 3 martial emperor's neck. A thick arrow of blood shot up 3 meters into the air, filling the sky with a bloody mist. Like a sword, Moue stood proudly on the stage. He took out a snow-white handkerchief and, before the gazes of the crowd, gently wiped away the blood on his large sword with a gentle and pampering gaze. In reality, after his sword pierced the throat, there would not be any blood on his sword. However, in this bitter battle, Moue used an even more cruel method. Even though he knew that his opponent would definitely die, he still cut off his opponent's head. Compared to Chen Hao's stunning blade strike, the visual shock it brought to the crowd was even greater. After gently wiping his large sword clean, Moue sheathed his sword. With an indifferent expression, he flew back to the viewing platform. When there were only 2 matches left in the first round, the number 30 Helian Wuxia of the 9th group finally appeared. Helian Wuxia was a rank 3 martial emperor. Her opponent was only a rank 2 martial emperor. Helian Wuxia did not use her 5 elements energy at all. With a palm strike, she sent her opponent flying out of the stage, seriously injuring him. The first round ended. Only Dongfengjian, Zhao Yunlong by Li Shi Dongfengjun, Zhao Yunfei by Li Yan, Chen Hao, Moue and Helian Wuxia remained in the Jinyuan kingdom. After a short rest of 15 minutes, the second round began. The order of appearance was still the same as before. After the second round began, the battles became even more bitter. However, the death rate decreased. The reason for that was because some disciples would directly choose to admit defeat when they encountered opponents with an enormous disparity in cultivation. In the first 8 matches, Yi Mingho, Dongfengjian and the other head disciples did not fight. Yet, they were able to advance to the third round. Zhao Yunlong by Li Shi Dongfengjun, Zhao Yunfei and Bai Liyan advanced again. Bai Liyan encountered a rank 5 martial emperor with the same cultivation as him. His battle power was on par with his. Although he advanced, he was unable to participate in the next round. Zhao Yunlong and Bai Lishi were the head disciples of their respective palaces. Thus, they easily won their matches and seriously injured their opponents. That was nothing. However, Dongfengjun and Zhao Yunfei displayed astonishing battle power in their matches. Both of them killed their rank 5 martial emperors. However, even with that being the case, both Zhao Yunfei and Dongfengjun no longer had the arrogance they had before. This was especially true for Dongfengjun. When he saw Chen Hao's stunning blade strike that instantly killed a rank 6 martial emperor, although he did not wish to admit it, he knew that he was no match for Chen Hao. In the fourth group, number 23 from the Jinyuan Kingdom, Chen Hao, number 25 from the Great Peak Kingdom, Meng Fei, please step onto the stage. Number 24 had already been killed by Chen Hao. This time around, his opponent was Meng Fei, the rank 5 martial emperor. Before the start of this round, everyone was able to predict who their opponent would be. In the previous round, all the groups were consecutive matches. One person would win, and the other would be eliminated. In this round, Chen Hao's opponent was number 25 from the group below him. Right after Chen Hao stepped onto the stage, he immediately moved back. There was nothing he could do about it. His opponent had actually chosen to admit defeat. Evidently, he had been frightened by Chen Hao's stunning blade strike. Furthermore, he simply had no way to defeat it. In this round, Moyue and Helian Wuxi were unlucky. Moyue's opponent was a rank 5 martial emperor from the Great Qian Kingdom. As for Helian Wuxi, she was a rank 6 martial emperor from the Great Peak Kingdom. The disparity in cultivation was simply too enormous. Thus, under the advice of Chen Hao and Huang Qi, they directly chose to admit defeat. Otherwise, they might very well be killed by their opponents. After entering the third round, only Dong Fengjian, Zhao Yunlong by Li Shi, Dong Fengjun, Zhao Yunfei and Chen Hao remained. Bai Liyan was seriously injured and was unable to participate in the battle. Only 8 people remained in each group. Among them, one person had advanced to the next round. Junior brother, your opponent this time around is Ran Miao Miao. Are you confident in winning? Yunfian took a glance at Feng Qing, who had regained consciousness with the help of top-quality healing medicinal pellets. However, her face was still pale. She turned to Chen Hao and asked. Yes, Chen Hao calmly said. Since he had already set a target for himself, there was no need for him to hide too much. After all, he would soon be seen. He, rank 8 martial emperor, allow this crown prince to end your match. Yi Mingho looked to the 2-meter-tall, majestic lion-like youngster before him. He who was a head shorter than him, actually spoke with disdain. Enough of your superfluous words. Go ahead and attack. The majestic youngster had a serious expression. However, he was not afraid in the slightest. This was the first match of the third round. Yi Mingho's opponent was the second-ranked expert of the Chunjun Kingdom, Meng Nan. His strength was definitely not inferior to the seeded contestants. He was 22 years old. Like Dong Fengjian, Bai Lishi and Zhao Yunlong, he had already participated in the 8-nation rookie competition twice. This was his final opportunity. Yi Mingho was only a rank 6 martial emperor. However, since he was able to become the head disciple of the Great Qian Kingdom, Meng Nan did not dare to look down on him in the slightest. Bang! Meng Nan took the initiative to attack. With a single step, a deep crater appeared on the hard rocky ground. His majestic body actually disappeared. For such a body to possess such speed, it was truly astonishing. It was as if his fist had landed on Yi Mingho's face. The wind created by the fist was vast and mighty. Yi Mingho's smile of contempt was immediately blown away by the wind created by the fist. When he was seen again, he was already 10 meters away from Meng Nan. Even his posture and expression did not change in the slightest. So fast, how could this position-shifting shadows be so powerful? This Yi Mingho is only a rank 6 martial emperor. Yet he possesses such astonishing strength. He is most definitely a genius that only appears once every 100 years. You have the appearance of a monstrous beast. Never would I have expected that your speed would be pretty good. Unfortunately, before this crown prince, you're nothing more than a fart. As long as you can touch the corner of this crown prince's clothes, you'll win. I'll give you 10 chances. Yi Mingho crossed his arms before his chest and spoke with contempt. Yi Mingho's arrogant words caused the crowd to look at each other in dismay. Touching the corner of his clothes meant losing? No matter what, Meng Nan was a rank 8 martial emperor. This was simply undisguised contempt and humiliation. Roar. Meng Nan let out a beast-like roar. His speed abruptly increased once again. His speed was so fast that it was unimaginable. The origin power in his body had also been pushed to the pinnacle. However, the following scene caused everyone to be overwhelmed with shock. 1 bolt, 2 bolts, 3 bolts. For bolts, a total of 8 identical figures appeared around Meng Nan. Furthermore, it was impossible to tell if they were real or fake. 2 times, 3 times. All of the figures spoke at the same time. They were indifferently counting the number of times Meng Nan attacked. This guy has comprehended the wind attribute from the wood attribute. Chen Hao, who was staring at the stage, frowned slightly. His valiant soul perception allowed him to capture a trace of Yi Mingho's aura. The 8 figures that appeared to be unmoving were all real. That was because Yi Mingho was moving with a frightening speed. Every time he arrived at a figure, he would stop for an extremely short period of time, so that the afterimage would continue to maintain his appearance. This was the secret skill, position-shifting shadows. As for the reason why he was able to do it without making any sound, It was because he had fused with the concept of wind and caused everyone to have an illusion. 7 times, 8 times. Yi Mingho's voice became more and more disdainful. Meng Nan was like a mad beast. He was using all of his strength to increase his speed unceasingly. Was he unable to even touch the corner of his opponent's clothes? Pooh. What no one expected was that when Meng Nan released his 9th pursuit, a cold light suddenly appeared like lightning when Meng Nan was about to reach one of the figures. Before most people could see what happened, Meng Nan's large body seemed to have lost control. He tumbled and spat out an arrow of blood that dyed the stage and sky red. Idiot. You really are all brawn and no brains. I told you to touch this prince's clothes, but I didn't tell you not to defend. Yi Mingho's 8 figures merged into one. His white robe was spotless as he spoke these words that made everyone's hearts turn cold. First update. Requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. Please everyone, thank you very much. If you like this work, I welcome you to come to Chidian.com to give me your recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 116. Thank you very much, friends, for your monthly tickets. Let us return the favor. The gap between us is very small, and we might be overtaken at any moment. That's why we'll have to rely on our brothers and sisters. The only thing Dark Mountain can do is to do its best to right. Friends who still have monthly votes, please vote for Dark Mountain. Many thanks. This Yi Mingho has no problem entering the top 10. Within the first group, the most promising Meng Nan was easily defeated by him. Moreover, he didn't even reveal his true strength. He is truly powerful. Fortunately, you guys aren't in the same group as him, so you don't have to worry too much. Huang Qi said to everyone. Next, the seeded players of the second and third groups also won easily. The fourth group seeded contestant, the Star Luo Kingdom's Yin Fenghan, encountered a rank 8 martial emperor from the Great Qian Kingdom. However, to the crowd's astonishment, Yin Fenghan, who had a feminine appearance and looked like a eunuch, managed to send his opponent flying out of the stage within 3 strikes, causing him to lose consciousness. His battle prowess had risen to the same level as Yi Mingho, whose strength was unknown. Dongfang Jian encountered a rank 6 martial emperor. That rank 6 martial emperor directly admitted defeat. Soon after, Zhao Yunlong and Bai Lishi won one after another. Dongfang Jun won by a fluke and suffered light injuries, while Zhao Yunfei lost miserably and suffered heavy injuries. In this round, Chen Hao was the only one from the Jinyuan Kingdom who hadn't participated yet. Miao Miao, are you sure? Jing Feiyang, the chief disciple of Jingyan Kingdom, asked Ran Miao Miao with concern in his eyes. Ran Miao Miao was Jing Feiyang's fiancé. Jing Feiyang was a direct descendant of the royal family of the Jingyan Kingdom. He is merely a rank 5 martial emperor. His opponent's speed and battle prowess were too weak, which was why he had succeeded. If you meet me, you will definitely lose. At the very most, his strength would be comparable to that of a rank 7 martial emperor. Although I am only a rank 6 martial emperor, my origin energy is comparable to that of a peak rank 7 martial emperor. He can control his essence energy to the smallest detail, so can I. Don't worry. Besides, Ran Miao Miao's beautiful eyes shone with strong confidence. She looked at Jing Feiyang and said in a low voice, with my beauty, how much of my combat strength do you think he can unleash if I use the heavenly charm technique? You are going to use it? I was unlucky and didn't get into the 9th or 10th group. That sissy Yin Fenghan, I'm not his match. I only have 2 more battles at most. If I can kill such a super genius, it will be a great achievement. What's not to like? All right then. Let's welcome number 17 Ran Miao Miao from the Jingyan Kingdom, and number 23 Chen Hao from the Jinyuan Kingdom from the 4th group. The referee's voice rang out. Finally, it was Chen Hao's turn to take the stage again. This was the 3rd round, and Chen Hao had only fought once. If he won this time, he would be promoted to the top 4 in the group. Junior brother, be careful. The weak Fang Qing whispered. She deeply felt how terrifying Ran Miao Miao was. Although he knew that Chen Hao's battle prowess was not simple, he did not have much confidence in defeating him. Don't worry, Chen Hao said calmly. His eyes were full of confidence as he flew towards the ring. That beauty Ran Meow Meow won't admit defeat, right? How can I admit defeat? Although Ran Meow Meow is only a rank 6 martial emperor, she is a disciple of Jingyan Kingdom's #1 clan. Did you not see the battle power she displayed in the last 2 matches? He definitely wouldn't admit defeat. It's just that it's hard to tell who's going to win. That Chen Hao isn't simple. He's only fought once so far, so I really can't tell how strong he is. That's right. However, this match should be very marvelous. Why isn't Ran Meow Meow on the stage yet? Could it be that she's really going to admit defeat? She's on the stage. Whoosh. At the moment when the crowd was spiritedly discussing and Helian Wuxia and the others were feeling nervous, Ran Meow Meow turned into a ray of light and flew towards the stage from the viewing platform. When she reached the top of the stage, her speed immediately slowed down and she gradually descended. Her beautiful hair fluttered in the wind and her white gown fluttered in the wind. To everyone's astonishment, Ran Meow Meow actually had a smile on her face. Her beautiful eyes were filled with emotion as she stared at the handsome Chen Hao with a serious expression. The gentle breeze caused Ran Meow Meow's graceful, exquisite and curvaceous body to be completely revealed. Especially her towering breasts. They were extremely alluring and flirtatious. Many disciples in the crowd were staring blankly at Ran Meow Meow. Ran Meow Meow was indeed a first-rate beauty. However, her performance in the last 2 matches was not too shocking. Yet now, with merely her appearance, she had caused many youths' heartbeats to accelerate. Her charm had simply increased exponentially. However, Chen Hao frowned slightly and his gaze became even sharper. His soul perception far exceeded that of ordinary people. Chen Hao could clearly sense a strange aura enveloping Ran Meow Meow. It was similar to his enchanting senior sister Yunfian, but there was a big difference. As for the specific difference, Chen Hao could not say. However, he knew that Yunfian's aura was innate. However, Ran Meow Meow had deliberately activated it. Are you trying to confuse me? Chen Hao stood with his hands clasped behind his back. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. His handsome and delicate face immediately made people feel a strange and demonic aura. He thought disdainfully in his heart. Ran Meow Meow's expression changed slightly. The match begins. At this moment, the referee announced straightforwardly. Chen Hao's gaze had already clearly told Ran Meow Meow that her heavenly charm art had no effect at all. This made her very surprised. Therefore, when she heard the referee's words, she did not dare to hesitate at all. Her figure flashed, and like a ghost, she swayed left and right and quickly approached Chen Hao. Facing a flying dagger master, only a substitute could play to her strengths and avoid her weaknesses in close combat. If she was at a distance, she would be completely beaten. Seeing this scene, everyone thought that Chen Hao would quickly retreat and draw his dagger to maintain the best attacking distance. However, to everyone's surprise, Chen Hao, who had curled up the corners of his mouth, suddenly took a step forward instead of retreating. Come on! Meteor Sword Storm! Ran Meow Meow shouted. Seeing that the two of them were only 10 feet apart, which was the best attacking distance for her, she suddenly swung her sword. Swish! Swish! Star-shaking fist. Chen Hao's body suddenly glowed with a bright blue light, especially his arms. As the light extended from his shoulders to his arms to his fists, the color became more and more intense. His fists were crystal blue, and the color of his skin could no longer be seen. Every punch seemed to tear the space apart, creating a huge air explosion, and instantly smashing Ran Meow Meow's sword light. At this moment, Chen Hao suddenly changed the finger-guessing game into a palm, and his left hand slapped out. Billowing smoke and biting cold instantly covered a radius of more than 10 feet. Everyone, including the referee, could not see the two figures at all. Boom, 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 boom. The dense and terrifying explosion caused countless gravel to fly out in all directions. Dust and smoke billowed and hazy. What was even more shocking was that the icy cold aura seemed to have frozen the air around the entire arena, forcibly creating pieces of frost and snow, giving her a taste of her own medicine. Seeing this scene, countless people widened their eyes in shock, especially Fang Qing and her companions. It should be noted that Ran Meow Meow had used the same method to severely injure Fang Qing. If Fang Qing had not used a secret method, she would have been killed at this moment. And now, Chen Hao had also blocked all information about Ran Miao Miao and used the ice and fog energy of the 5 elements. Chen Hao's flying knife technique had already shocked everyone. At this moment, Chen Hao displayed his ability to comprehend the energy of the 5 elements. If it was just comprehension, it would be fine. But now, Chen Hao's ice fog energy was so majestic and powerful that it was simply unbelievable. After all, the power of the 5 elements could only be fully exerted in the martial sage realm. Although the terrifying sound of the explosion drowned out everyone's voices, Ran Miao Miao's sharp cry suddenly broke through the explosion and resounded loudly. However, in just an instant, an even sharper cry soared into the sky and rolled out, causing the nearby disciples to feel pain in their eardrums. Miao Miao. The expression of Jing Feiyang, the head disciple of Jingyan Empire, changed greatly and he cried out in alarm. However, the moment that sharp cry stopped, the smoke instantly dispersed, as if it was specially made for the crowd to see. Everyone's eyes were wide open. Chen Hao's fist, which was filled with origin energy and looked like a blue crystal, had landed squarely on Ran Miao Miao's forehead. Amidst the gasps and cries of alarm, that extremely beautiful little face that had caused countless youths to become restless, with a bang, like a watermelon blooming. Miao Miao. I'll kill you, I'll kill you. Jing Feiyang immediately howled crazily. The origin energy in his body surged violently. With a rumble, before anyone could stop him, he rushed toward the stage. Stop. The referee, who came back to his senses, immediately shouted. However, Jing Feiyang had already arrived above the stage. As if he had gone crazy, he slapped down with his palm. Even the rank 9 martial emperor referee was unable to stop him. Jing Feiyang's vigorous and berserk origin energy formed an incomparably huge palm, and slapped down with a rumble. Like the weight of Mount Tai, it smashed down on Chen Hao's head. At this instant, even Chen Hao did not expect that Jing Feiyang would dare to violate the competition's rules. There were no rules for the 2 sides in the new talent competition. However, no one was allowed to interfere in the competition, not to mention taking revenge on the stage. Even warning the other side was allowed. Feeling that terrifying energy, Chen Hao tightly frowned. He was about to attack when he suddenly stopped. Bastard! Boom! At the same time as a furious shout sounded, an incorporeal huge hand suddenly flashed from the direction of the platform, and directly dispersed Jing Feiyang's mountain-like huge hand. Disrupting the competition, disqualified. Banned from the new talent competition for life. Scram. The head of the arbitration group, the mighty god general, was shining with resplendent 7-colored radiance like a god. He easily neutralized all of Jing Feiyang's attacks. Then he directly announced the punishment. Jing Feiyang stood in the air, as if he was choked by an incorporeal huge hand. He was unable to move in the slightest. After the old man said scram, he was directly thrown toward the Jingyan Kingdom's viewing platform like a dead object. Senior, thank you for saving me. After being stunned for a moment, Chen Hao cupped his fists and said to the old man who was standing in the air. There was dead silence below the stage. Helian Wuxia, Huang Qi, and the others all broke out in cold sweat. On the other hand, Chen Hao's handsome and delicate face did not change at all. Even his white robe was intact. He even calmly thanked the head of the arbitration group. It was as if he was not the one who had just experienced a life and death crisis. Chen Hao, very good. The old man only intervened to uphold the competition's rules. In fact, you don't necessarily need the old man to save you. All right, let the competition continue. The old man stared at Chen Hao, his eyes shining brightly as he spoke calmly. His words, however, left most people scratching their heads in confusion. Don't necessarily need to be saved. What did that mean? Second update. Wuxian, continue to climb and work hard. If you have monthly tickets, please help Wuxian. Thank you. Chapter 117. Monthly votes. Monthly votes. Recommendation votes. Thank you. The words of the head of the arbitration group shocked Chen Hao. Could it be that the head of the arbitration group had seen through his true battle power? Slightly shrugging his shoulders, Chen Hao, before the shocked gazes of the crowd, flew to the viewing platform. Boy, you've truly hidden your strength well. Just as Chen Hao sat down, Huang Qi looked at Chen Hao with a seemingly displeased expression. Uncle Huang, I didn't hide anything. After coming out of the remnant, you didn't ask me anything. Chen Hao felt the fiery gazes of the crowd. Even Helian Wuxia, Mo Yui, Yunfian and Fang Qing were no exception. No one could have thought that Chen Hao was actually powerful to such a level. According to the words of the head of the arbitration group, it seemed that Chen Hao had risen to the level of Jing Feiyang. How could the crowd not be shocked? Even Dongfang Jun, who had become sworn enemies with Chen Hao because of Helian Wuxia, no longer looked at Chen Hao with the same arrogance as before. Instead, it was replaced with shock and a strange emotion. That's true. I truly didn't expect you to grow so quickly. To possess such battle power as a rank 5 martial emperor, I'm afraid. Huang Qi stopped halfway and continued. I'm looking forward to your performance. The battles continued. Soon the third round ended. In the fourth round, there were only 4 people left in each group. Only the 8th group had 3 people left because Jing Feiyang was disqualified. Dongfang Jun, who was originally lightly injured and destined to face Jing Feiyang in the 4th round, had already lost his fighting spirit. However, at this moment, his fighting spirit was once again ignited. It must be said that this opportunity was created for him by Chen Hao. The other 2 were both rank 7 martial emperors. Dongfang Jun had an 80% certainty that he would be able to defeat them, obtain first place in the group, and advance to the true rookie competition. To be able to win 3 rounds in a row, there was not a single weak person left. The 4th round began. The first 7 rounds were all fought by the chief disciples of each group. Yi Mingho and the other chief disciples had all successfully advanced to the next round. Only in the 6th group, the chief disciple of the Heavenly War Kingdom was eliminated by the second-ranked expert of the Great Qian Kingdom, Bu Feihong. At the same time, what made the people of the Jinyuan Kingdom feel regretful was that Zhao Yunlong, who was very promising, was eliminated by the second group's chief disciple, Sima Chong, by a very small margin. This ended Zhao Yunlong's dream. When it came to the 8th group, Dongfang Jun, who was at the front of the line, was full of fighting spirit because he didn't have Jing Feiyang. He actually won another battle and smoothly advanced to the next round. As long as he defeated the disciple who was given a bye in the next round, he would be promoted to the real rookie competition. Whether it was luck or strength, no matter how bad Dongfang Jun's performance in the Royal New Show Hall was, everyone still felt honored at this moment. After all, he had brought honor to the Jinyuan Kingdom. The 9th and 10th groups' battles also ended very quickly. Because there was no chief disciple, these 2 groups were undoubtedly lucky. However, those who could make it this far were all experts. The 2 victorious disciples were actually from the Daqian Kingdom. Without any pause, the 5th round began. Bai Lishi won with light injuries. As long as he defeated the chief disciple of the 3rd group in the 6th round, he would be able to advance. Finally, it was Chen Hao's turn again. His opponent was an 18-year-old rank 7 martial emperor, a disciple of the Star Luo Kingdom. He was from the same kingdom as the chief disciple of the 4th group. Chen Hao didn't hesitate, nor did he show any mercy. Even though he didn't have any enmity with his opponent, he still displayed great strength. He didn't give his opponent any chance to retaliate and directly killed him. Survival of the fittest. The strong preyed on the weak. This was the law of the jungle. It was also something that every kingdom's disciple would do. After the 5th round ended, there were only 2 people left in each group. This was the final battle. It was also the battle that would determine whether or not one was qualified to advance to the real rookie competition. Bai Lishi, you'll be in the 3rd round. You should have seen your opponent's strength. Whether or not you'll be able to advance will depend on this battle. You still have a lot of hope. Huang Qi encouraged. Although Huang Qi could see that Bai Lishi only had a 40% chance of winning, this was Bai Lishi's last chance. After this year, Bai Lishi would no longer have the chance to participate in the rookie competition. If he failed, it would mean that he would be like Zhao Yunlong. He would never be able to reach a higher level. I'll do my best, even if I die, Bai Lishi said resolutely. His opponent was the chief disciple of the Heaven Vault Kingdom, Bai Meng. The strength that Bai Lishi had displayed in the past few battles put a lot of pressure on him. However, this was his last chance. Whether or not he could advance was related to his honor, his clan's honor, and the Jinyuan kingdom's honor. He had to put his life on the line. Chen Hao, you'll be in the 4th round. Your opponent, Yin Fenghan, is probably no weaker than Yi Mingho. Are you sure you have the strength to fight him? Yin Fenghan won't let go of a genius like you. Think about it carefully. You're not even 15 years old. You still have a chance. There's no need to think about it. Either he dies or I die. Chen Hao's tone was even more resolute. Yin Fenghan still didn't have an opponent that was strong enough for him to reveal his true strength. Even Chen Hao was well aware that the upcoming battle would be the most difficult one he had ever faced. He wasn't confident that he could win. However, Chen Hao knew that he wouldn't do as he said. He had to win at all costs. Even if he had to expose all his trump cards. Huang Qi stared at Chen Hao for a while and didn't say anything else. Even he couldn't guess Chen Hao's true strength. However, based on his understanding of Chen Hao, he felt that Chen Hao might exceed everyone's expectations. Then, Huang Qi talked about Dongfang Jian. With Dongfang Jian's strength, as long as he didn't hide any powerful trump cards, it wouldn't be difficult for him to advance. As for Dongfang Jun, Huang Qi's words were similar to Chen Hao's. The only difference was that Dongfang Jun had a higher chance of winning in terms of reputation. This was because the gap between his opponent and Yin Fenghan wasn't small. When Chen Hao arrogantly stepped onto the stage to fight against a rank 8 martial emperor, Helian Wuxia, who was sitting next to him, used her arm to nudge Chen Hao. She turned her beautiful little face and slightly raised it. She looked straight at Chen Hao and said, "Why must you risk your life? Can't you do it 2 years later?" Chen Hao frowned slightly and avoided Helian Wuxia's gaze. After hesitating for a while, he finally said, 2 years is too long. I can't wait that long. Do it at all costs." Helian Wuxia's sharp intuition seemed to have caught something from Chen Hao's evasive gaze. She lowered her voice and asked with a slight tremble. Chen Hao nodded and replied, "I understand. I will. Little Mo and I will work hard." Helian Wuxia looked at Chen Hao's face that had become even more handsome and mature. She tightly bit her lips and said with a voice as soft as a mosquito's, "Do it at all costs." These words made Helian Wuxia clearly feel that Chen Hao, who had once humiliated her but was unable to make her hate him, seemed to be fated to walk out of her sight. No one knew better than her and Mo Yui about Chen Hao's abnormal talent. She had always been working hard, putting her life on the line. She had long realized that there would be a day when she and Mo Yui would not be able to keep up with his pace. She just didn't expect it to come so quickly, so early. A heart that was already rippling could only forcibly suppress all of this. She didn't want to become a burden that hindered his progress. She also had a woman's reservedness and dignity. So she didn't urge him to stay. She couldn't urge him to stay. She also knew that she couldn't urge him to stay. The only thing she could do was to work even harder and cultivate even more crazily. Mo Yui, who was sitting next to Helian Wuxia, lightly trembled his ears. His gaze left the stage and looked at his own sword. It was fiery and firm. Yi Mingho ended the battle within 3 minutes. He heavily injured the strongest opponent in the first group, and was the first to qualify for the rookie competition. In the second group, Sima Chong, the chief disciple of the Great Dome Kingdom, obtained the first place after much difficulty. In the third group, Bai Lishi gave it his all but still lost. He lost by a small margin, and was eliminated after Zhao Yunlong. The chief disciple of the Heaven Vault Kingdom, Bai Meng, obtained the first place in the group. Whoosh whoosh. When the referee called out Yin Fenghan and Chen Hao's names, the two instantly turned into 2 streaks of light, and appeared in the middle of the stage at the same time. Your battle strength is really shocking. It's a pity that you met me. Admit defeat. At least you can keep your life. Don't blame me for not giving you a chance. When the referee announced the start of the battle, Yin Fenghan and Chen Hao's aura rapidly soared. At the same time, Yin Fenghan's eerie rooster voice rang out. Your voice is even more shocking. It makes one seriously suspect that you were a father-in-law for a few years when you were young. Chen Hao's lips curled up slightly as he directly hit Yin Fenghan's sore spot. One shouldn't expose a person's shortcomings when scolding, but Chen Hao did so. What? Yin Fenghan, who was feminine and handsome, suddenly roared sharply. He forcibly changed the what into what. More like it. No, it should be. Admit defeat? I think you're afraid, right? Otherwise, with your personality, why would you give me the chance to admit defeat? Damn eunuch. Chen Hao's words were even more direct. I want you to die. Yin Fenghan's anger instantly rose to the limit. He took a step forward and his snow-white, crystal-like palm violently slapped towards Chen Hao. Chen Hao's pupils constricted. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 1, 2, 3. A total of 9 flying daggers that emitted a cold aura and unparalleled sharpness drew 9 strange trajectories as they shot towards Yin Fenghan. A battle of wits and courage. The conversation between the two did not seem to have any substance, but it was enough to prove that both sides completely regarded the other as a strong opponent. Yin Fenghan did not want to use his words to frighten Chen Hao and make him retreat, because after several rounds of battle, he discovered that he could not see through Chen Hao at all. This made him, who was always arrogant, not dare to say who would win so easily. But he did not expect that not only did he not succeed in frightening him, he instead made Chen Hao so angry that he completely lost his mind. His voice was strange. Who dared to say? Who said that he would fight with his life on the line? Not to mention the eunuchs and eunuchs. One had to know. This was a secret that only his parents and himself knew. How could Chen Hao's tone be so certain? How could he say it in front of the world? P.S. Third update. I sincerely request the brothers and sisters who still have monthly votes to support me. Thank you. Chapter 118. Brothers and sisters, today's monthly votes are still 0. Is there anything more miserable than this? Everyone, please give me some encouragement. The shock of losing an egg is too great. Covering my face with tears, I will continue writing. Everything will depend on everyone. Light of the fireflies. Facing the strange and tricky 9 flying daggers, the furious Yin Fenghan shouted coldly. His exposed skin seemed to have turned into a white jade crystal in an instant, emitting a faint blue metallic luster. The color of his pair of flesh palms became darker, like they had turned into sharp claws. He did not care about the 9 flying daggers at all. His body was as fast as a ghost, approaching Chen Hao. Ding ding ding. Boom boom boom. The incomparably sharp flying daggers that were capable of instantly killing rank 7 martial emperors actually let out a metallic sound when they collided with Yin Fenghan's body. They were knocked back with a loud rumble. Yin Fenghan was not injured in the slightest. He actually continued his previous words and coldly said, "You dare to compete with the sun and moon? Prepare to die." Ah! Yin Fenghan suddenly let out a sharp whistle. He, who was less than 15 meters away from Chen Hao, immediately soared into the sky and emitted an incomparably sharp killing intent. He flew through the sky like a flash of lightning. He twisted his body in the air and slapped down with his azure palm. Violent lightning blast. Hiss hiss rumble. The frightening origin power actually contained a strong aura of lightning. Like a thunderbolt, it exploded and bombarded Chen Hao below. Heavenly lightning palm? The instant the experts on the viewing platform and the various countries' participant seating areas saw Yin Fenghan unleash his palm, they immediately cried out in alarm. Especially the Zhenyuan Kingdom's Hallmaster, Vice Hallmaster and Huang Qi, who was seated at the front of the participant seating area. All revealed expressions of extreme shock. Heavenly Lightning Palm, a level 16 secret skill. It was one of the strongest and highest level secret skills in the Star Luo Kingdom. According to rumor, when cultivated to the peak, one could be comparable to real lightning. With a single palm strike, lightning would wreak havoc and thunder would rumble. It was a frightening secret skill that only martial ancestor realm cultivators could learn. Only martial saints could truly unleash its might. Yet now Yin Fenghan, who was only a rank 8 martial emperor, had unleashed the heavenly lightning palm. Although Han Feng had not unleashed the full power of the heaven's thunder palm, this move was not something that a martial emperor could withstand. Although Helian Wuxia, Moyui and the rest did not know how powerful the Heaven's Thunder Palm was at this moment, that terrifying aura had already enveloped the entire martial arts practice field, causing the heaven and earth energy above the arena to become violent. With this kind of power, it was hard to imagine how terrifying Yin Fenghan's palm was. Rumbling explosions shook the surroundings. Thunderclaps, lightning, and thunderclaps exploded out successively, shaking the entire martial practice grounds to the point of trembling and trembling. Stone fragments even swirled into the air on the combat arena, and cracks swiftly appeared on the ground beneath the combat arena and the steps on the spectator stands. The power was so great that it shocked everyone present. Being able to die under my Heaven's Thunder Palm is enough for you to be proud, hee. Yin Fenghan continuously struck out with his palms, his arrogant voice resounding in everyone's ears. On the other hand, Chun Hao, who was in the arena, was dodging the terrifying lightning palms like a mouse. He was in a sorry state, and it was obvious that he had pushed his protective energy to the limit. How much longer could he last? Everyone could almost see the scene of Chun Hao being blasted by the lightning and smashed into pieces. Too terrifying. This Yin Fenghan's strength is actually so strong. I'm afraid he's not much weaker than our 5 palace chief. Yes. He's indeed very strong. Although it's not quite possible for him to obtain the right to participate in the 100 Empire rankings, he can definitely advance to the top 50. No, the top 20, or even the top 10 are all possible. Of course, the prerequisite is that he also possesses a spirit treasure that can contend with our 5 palace chief. That's true. The talent of these vassal states' top disciples is actually not inferior to our empire's true geniuses. The only difference is in their background. Spirit treasures are probably very difficult to obtain in those barren places. Yes, but it's not impossible. Over the years, there have been many disciples who possess spirit treasures. Although there are few low-level inheritances in those places, there are still some. We can't look down on them too much. This Yin Fenghan entered the top 10 in the previous preliminaries with the cultivation of a rank 5 martial emperor. His battle power and luck are both extremely astonishing. And now he even used the Heaven's Lightning Palm that surpasses his cultivation. I feel that it's very possible that he possesses a spirit treasure. This Xinyuan Kingdom's Chun Hao is truly unfortunate. He's only 15 years old, and he already possesses such strength. If he didn't force himself to accept the challenge, it wouldn't be difficult for him to obtain the right to participate in the 100 Empire rankings 2 years later. His talent is not inferior to our 5 palace chief, and might even surpass them. If he was born in our empire, he would be extremely powerful. There's nothing we can do about it. This is the sorrow of super geniuses. Generally speaking, super geniuses are all arrogant and don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. For people like him, 99 out of 100 will die young. Only the one that survives can become a true super existence. Unfortunately, there are too many people. This Chun Hao won't be able to endure more than a few moves. Truly stubborn. If I were him, I'd immediately jump off the stage and admit defeat. Isn't that just waiting for death? On the viewing platform, many disciples of the Xuanwu Empire's new show hall stared at the stage with bright eyes as they discussed spiritedly. However, some of the experts' gazes quietly changed. Originally, they were staring at the insufferably arrogant Yin Fenghan, but now, they were looking at Chun Hao with a trace of shock. 1 minute. Chun Hao had already miserably dodged Yin Fenghan's horrifying Heaven's Lightning Palm for 1 minute. Even though his protective chi had been broken open numerous times, his clothes were in tatters, and his black hair had become disheveled. What was shocking was that his figure actually didn't slow down in the slightest. As he passed through the flying rubble, Chun Hao's extraordinarily handsome face actually didn't show the slightest trace of panic. Especially his eyes that flickered with a bright light, they were even calm like water and composed, causing others to have the feeling as if they wouldn't be moved by the wind. How was this possible? The power of lightning was the most violent kind of energy. The Heaven's Lightning Palm that Yin Fenghan had unleashed contained the power of lightning. It might not be much to a martial saint expert, but to those below the martial emperor realm, it had a huge destructive power. Lightning shock, Yuan Qi explosion. Without a doubt, The power of lightning was the most terrifying kind of energy for cultivators, especially low-level cultivators. Not to mention being struck by lightning, even cultivating in a thunderstorm was a great taboo. Otherwise, once one was contaminated by the power of lightning, one's dantian would explode, and one's body would be smashed to pieces. However, after Chen Hao was hit and his protective aura was broken, his body only paused for a moment before he once again fled at lightning speed. Could it be? This kid has comprehended the lightning attribute of gold? Huang Qi and most of the experts on the viewing platform were shocked at this moment. When Chen Hao was fighting against Ran Miao Miao, he had already displayed the power of ice and mist. Everyone had seen it clearly. To be able to comprehend one of the 5 elements in the martial emperor realm, although it was shocking, everyone present were the top geniuses of the various kingdoms. It was not enough to shock them. Many of them had comprehended it. But, to be able to comprehend 2 of the 5 elements at the same time at the martial emperor realm was definitely rare. The originally arrogant and insufferably arrogant Yin Fenghan, who was originally confident of victory, in just a short minute, his eyes became extremely sinister. His brows were tightly furrowed. Although he was still violently waving his palms and had the absolute advantage, he knew that if this continued, the one who would lose would be him. Such an attack that exceeded one's cultivation level was something that consumed a lot of yuan qi. How long could he last? After a short moment of hesitation, Yin Fenghan's eyes suddenly flashed with determination and viciousness. He no longer hesitated. Be careful, he is about to use it. No one knew that at this moment, the voice of the treasure-hunting sword spirit rang in Chen Hao's mind. When Yin Fenghan used the Heaven's Thunder Palm, the treasure-hunting sword spirit had already appeared. It was not to help Chen Hao fight, as it did not have the ability to do so. However, with its sensitive perception of treasures, it discovered that Yin Fenghan's Heaven's Thunder Palm contained a strong aura of a spiritual treasure. Otherwise, with Yin Fenghan's cultivation level, it was impossible for him to use such a powerful attack. Good. Chen Hao's cold eyes flashed with a wisp of light. His mind was instantly immersed in a wonderful state. While he was fleeing in a sorry state, he suddenly stomped his feet. Hong! An explosive sound came from under his feet. His body, which was already moving at an astonishing speed, instantly turned into a streak of light. With a so sound, he left behind a semicircular afterimage. At the same time, he actually avoided the Yin Wind Cold Thunder Palm and flew high into the sky. Cries of shock erupted from the crowd. Everyone stared with their eyes wide open. Hiss hiss hiss. To everyone's surprise, Chen Hao had actually removed his protective aura, and streaks of lightning surged out of his body like arcs of lightning. He really comprehended the power of lightning. Countless experts said in their hearts in shock. Even Yin Fenghan stared with his eyes wide open in shock. He did not dare to hesitate any longer. With a sharp voice he suddenly shouted, "Quick! Wang!" A bright ray of lightning, in an instant, caused the sun in the sky to dim, competing with the sun and moon. A treasure sword that seemed to contain thousands of lightning appeared in Yin Fenghan's hand. With the sword in hand, before it was activated, it seemed to have torn apart the space barrier. It caused an earth-shattering explosion in the space of several hundred feet. The energy of heaven and earth surged, affecting the ground of the arena. Debris flew everywhere. Even the disciples on the spectator stands at the edge of the arena had to activate their protective aura in fear. Spiritual treasure. This Yin Fenghan really has a spiritual treasure. Powerful. The disciples on the spectator stands who had just guessed that Yin Fenghan had a spiritual treasure exclaimed in shock. Little brat, this was originally the trump card that Yin Fenghan used to become famous in the new talent competition of the Xuanwu Empire and enter the 100 Empire ranking. But you forced me to reveal it in advance. This is enough for you to be proud of. Today, at this moment, I will use your blood to refine my spiritual treasure. 9 Heaven's Thunder Sword. Duh. With the sword in his hand, Yin Fenghan's aura instantly soared countless times. Following his disdainful words, the sword stabbed out. Boom. The brilliant sword light carried a pressure that could destroy the heavens and the earth as it pressed down towards Chen Hao from all directions. The entire martial arts practice field erupted with gasps and exclamations. Helian Wuxi's small face instantly turned pale, and her delicate body trembled. Mo Yui's expression was also extremely nervous. Huang Qi, Fang Qing, and Yunfian all clenched their fists nervously and held their breaths. The other disciples of the Jinyuan kingdom, at this moment of glory and disgrace, were also extremely nervous. They broke out in a cold sweat for Chen Hao. No one thought that Yin Fenghan actually had a spiritual treasure, and the aura emitted by this spiritual treasure was absolutely beyond everyone's imagination. First update. Can you give me a monthly vote? Today it's still 0. I don't even have a single vote. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to give me a recommendation vote or monthly vote. Chapter 119. The second update has arrived, and there is a third update tonight. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your monthly votes. I already have 10 votes. Can I get 30 votes today? If I can, Dark Mountain will fight to the death for 12,000 votes tomorrow. 12,000 votes may not be much to other people, but to Dark Mountain, it will take 16 hours, or even longer. Come, brothers and sisters, stimulate Dark Mountain. Let Dark Mountain explode once. Only 20 votes left. See you at midnight, it's all up to you. The dazzling, majestic, and terrifying sword light whistled as it surged towards Chen Hao. The sword light contained numerous terrifying bolts of lightning that flickered in and out. Once it collided with Chen Hao, it would be the moment of its explosion. Break for me. Just when everyone was shocked, Chen Hao, whose body was flashing with electric light, was not afraid at all. His palm shook, and a lusterless ring that looked like an ordinary iron appeared in his hand. With a clear shout, the ring shook, and suddenly flashed with 7 colored rings of light, which were ever-changing, and covered the oncoming brilliant sword light layer by layer. Spirit treasure? Stupid. Heavenly lightning burning body explode. Yin Fenghan shouted angrily. The sword in his hand shook, and the terrifying sword light that contained bolts of lightning suddenly exploded. Kacha kacha. Bolts of lightning as thick as a person instantly shot through the 7-colored ring, wanting to hit Chen Hao's body. Good. Chen Hao stood in the void and raised the ring with one hand. At this moment, the small ring suddenly expanded dozens of times with a hum sound. An even more dazzling 7-colored light immediately blocked the thunderbolt. The 7-colored light of the ring became even brighter, and with a hiss, it emitted different colored lights that poured into the center of Chen Hao's brows. Kacha kacha. Boom boom boom. The space between Chen Hao and the cold wind was like a purgatory of thunder and lightning, but everything around Chen Hao was calm and tranquil. Only the extremely pure energy of the 5 elements was continuously fusing into the space between Chen Hao's eyebrows, causing his body to begin to shine with an intense 7-colored light. What spirit treasure is this? It's so powerful. How is this possible? This Chen Hao also has a spirit treasure? Oh my god! Waves of exclamations erupted from the spectator stands. Numerous gazes were fixated on Chen Hao, who was shining with a 7-colored radiance and standing proudly. They simply could not believe what they were seeing. In their original opinion, Chen Hao would definitely be blasted into smithereens by Fenghan's lightning sword. But now, that terrifying lightning sword light was actually unable to harm Chen Hao in the slightest. What was even more shocking was that the scene before him seemed to have completely converted the lightning energy of Chen Hao into pure energy of the 5 elements through the strange ring in his hand, and then fused it into his own body. Operate the 5 elements? The experts on the rostrum, including the head of the arbitration team, crushed the teacups in their hands in shock. They stood up and stared at this shocking scene. Most people only guessed that Chen Hao had fused his opponent's thunderbolt energy into his body. However, as a martial saint expert, the head of the arbitration team was very clear about this. That ordinary-looking ring was definitely a top-tier soul treasure of the martial saint realm. No one knew that such a scene was something that even Chen Hao himself did not expect. Originally, when Chen Hao obtained the Heaven and Earth ring, he was only at the martial royal realm. If he wanted to activate the Heaven and Earth ring to fight, He would need to burn a large number of 5-element spiritual pills to be able to do so. However, after stepping into the martial emperor realm, and comprehending the mysteries of yin and yang in the ruins, and cultivating the 9-revolution heavenly sun body, he had refined 30% of the 5 elements spiritual roots that he had comprehended, but was unable to truly refine. Moreover, he had a higher and deeper understanding of operating the 5 elements. Although he still could not unleash the true power of the heaven and earth ring, he could activate it by himself. Therefore, when faced with the powerful attack of Feng Han's 9 Heavens Thunder Sword, he had no choice but to activate the heaven and earth ring to block it. However, he did not expect that the heaven and earth ring would not disperse the terrifying thunderbolt, but instead swallow it. Others could not sense it, but Chen Hao could sense it very clearly. After the 5 elements energy in the heaven and earth ring suddenly swallowed the thunderbolt, the balance was broken. In an instant, it began to operate the 5 elements. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were all derived elements. They revolved at a speed of thousands of revolutions in an instant. With each revolution, a trace of the thunderbolt energy would disappear, and the balance of the 5 elements would be restored. The heaven and earth ring swallowed the thunderbolt, but the enhanced 5 elements energy was directly transmitted to Chen Hao without leaving a trace behind. The majestic 5 elements energy was like the Yangtze River and Yellow River as it surged into Chen Hao's body, stimulating Chen Hao's meridians and dantian. Chen Hao, who looked like a god standing proudly, was not as relaxed as he appeared to be. In this battle, he had no choice but to integrate most of his attention into refining the 5 elements energy. Chen Hao deeply understood that this was caused by the difference in realm. If he was already a martial saint, he would not be in such a predicament. The burning pain made Chen Hao's meridians and dantian feel as if they were burning. Fortunately, Chen Hao had experienced the tempering of the 9 revolutions heavenly sun technique. His physical body had already reached an unimaginable realm. How is this possible? How is this possible? I want you to die. Yin Fenghan's sharp voice roared angrily. Activating the 9 Heavens Thunder Sword beyond his realm was an extremely exhausting matter. He originally thought that he would definitely be able to kill Chen Hao, but now, Chen Hao actually used a small ring to block his terrifying sword light. What kind of spirit treasure was that ring, to be so powerful? Frightened, Yin Fenghan knew that if this continued, he would die of exhaustion before he could kill Chen Hao. How could he dare to continue like this? With a heart-wrenching roar, Yin Fenghan suddenly activated his mental connection with the 9 Heavens Thunder Sword to the extreme. His energy, essence, qi, and spirit instantly erupted completely. Either you die or I die. One sword. Success or failure would depend on this sword. Because once this sword was released, he would no longer have any battle strength. Hiss. Boom. The 9 Heavens Thunder Sword condensed all of Yin Fenghan's cultivation, essence, qi, and spirit. Man and sword as one, it was like a divine dragon condensed from thunder. Roaring, with the majestic might of heaven, it charged towards Chen Hao. Pooh. The violent energy that suddenly increased by several times made Chen Hao explosively retreat. He spat out a mouthful of essence blood, but his eyes did not even blink. Becoming even colder and calmer, he suddenly clenched the mysterious yellow ring with both hands and let out a clear roar that resounded through heaven and earth. In an instant, Chen Hao also merged all of his essence, qi, and spirit into the mysterious yellow ring. After a short while, Chen Hao felt all the energy in his body being sucked out. Kacha. Boom boom boom. A terrifying explosion reverberated throughout the world, blotting out the sky, and a terrifying storm suddenly appeared within a radius of 10,000 zhang. The trees in the distance snapped and rose into the sky. If it were not for the fact that the palace building contained a magic array, it would have collapsed. Boom. Boom. Yin Fenghan advanced. Chen Hao retreated. Yin Fenghan, who was one with the sword, gripped the sword with both hands. The sword tip was pointed at Chen Hao. It had already pierced half a foot into the middle of the mysterious yellow ring. It was only a foot away from Chen Hao, who was holding the mysterious yellow ring, and was slowly approaching. Victory and defeat were about to be decided, and one would die and one would be injured. In the depths of the Xuanwu Empire New Show Hall, an old man sat cross-legged, floating in the air. But the strange thing was that there was not the slightest trace of energy around him. It was as if he had merged into heaven and earth, floating with the slight movement of the dust in the air. The old man had white hair and a youthful complexion. His eyes seemed to be closed, and there was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. His 2 hands were casually placed on his 2 legs. Anyone who saw this scene would feel that the old man was floating in the water, or standing on a cloud. Heaven and earth is me. I am heaven and earth, completely formed by nature. The old man who was immersed in the mysteries of heaven and earth suddenly heard a sound from the entrance of the hall. The door suddenly opened, and a gust of wind rushed in. The entire hall seemed to tremble violently. With a sound, the old man was blown away by the wind. He was like a grain of air, dancing with the wind. Seeing that the old man was about to hit the wall, the old man suddenly opened his eyes. His white eyebrows wrinkled, and his figure suddenly stopped, remaining motionless. What a large movement! There is such an expert in the Vassal Kingdom's rookie selection competition. The old man's expression was slightly surprised. The moment he finished speaking, he disappeared into thin air from the hall. I never thought that the 2 of them would have spirit treasures, and they are not bad spirit treasures. Young Fan, who do you think will win between the 2? On the stands, the 2 youths who had previously commented on Chun Hao had unknowingly arrived at the edge of the stands. Of the 2, the Azure Dragon Hall's first seat, the handsome youth, was no longer lazily leaning on the railing like before. Instead, he stood as straight as a sword. His eyes shone brightly as he watched Chun Hao and Yin Fenghan's final attack. He was very clear that whoever couldn't hold on first would be the one to die. The youth called Yang Fan was the skinny and ordinary-looking youth who would disappear if thrown into a crowd. He was the first seat of the White Tiger Hall. Just like his name, if anyone treated him as a real mortal, they would not even know how they died. It's hard to say, but that Chun Hao's chances are higher. Oh, I feel that Yin Fenghan will win. There's still 3 inches left. Let's bet. Sure, the old rules. Haha, you've lost for sure. Yang Fan faintly smiled. Yin Fenghan has already lost her rationality. She can't hold on for long. And Chun Hao is still passively defending. More importantly, look at Chun Hao's expression, especially his eyes. From the beginning to the end, he has not lost his cool. My intuition tells me that he is not going all out. So close, yet worlds apart, just watch. Although it's only 3 inches. Oh no, it's now 2 inches. I believe that Yin Fenghan will not be able to pierce Chun Hao. You always have a set of theories. Let's wait and see. At most, 2 minutes will be enough to determine the winner. No matter who wins, it has made me a little interested in this rookie competition. Just a little? How much more do you want? Do you think they can beat me? Perhaps not now. However, don't forget that the Empire's rookie competition will only begin in 3 months. Yin Fenghan is nothing, but that Chun Hao. Yang Fan narrowed his eyes and shook his head. He continued. He is only a rank 5 martial emperor. Yet he already possesses such battle power. The space for him to grow. Amen. Halfway through his words, Yang Fan's calm expression suddenly revealed a trace of surprise. His small eyes shined as he raised his head and looked to the sky. P.S. Second update. Requesting monthly votes. Recommendation votes. Thank you. Chapter 120. Not at all. Dark Mountain's requirements are too high. Sorry. Dark Mountain's updates are still stable, and its quality and quantity is guaranteed. It can't be as fierce as the others, so it can only be stable for a long time. Thank you, everyone. Actually, when the previous chapter said that there would be 30 votes today and 4 tomorrow, Dark Mountain was also under great pressure. It forced itself to explode and increase its speed. Now that it obviously can't do it, Dark Mountain is a little more relaxed. Heaving a sigh of relief. Originally, everyone was staring at Chun Hao and Yin Fenghan, who were about to win, but they were interrupted by a milky white belt of light that appeared in the sky. The moment the belt of light appeared, the air tumbled, and the thunderous sky became strangely quiet. The belt of light split into two and separated Chen Hao and Yin Fenghan like two gentle hands. When they separated, their movements and expressions didn't change at all. They were still in the same state as before. However, their terrifying attacks, which caused the world to tremble, were like stones sinking into the sea when they met the belt of light. They couldn't cause any waves anymore. Everyone's gaze followed the origin of the belt of light, and a sage-like figure appeared in everyone's eyes. He stood on an auspicious cloud with white hair, a white beard, and a white robe. He stood with his hands behind his back and slowly descended from the sky, riding on clouds. Martial God? The legendary martial god? Countless disciples widened their eyes in shock. Their mouths were wide open, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Above martial emperor, flying in the sky wasn't really flying. To put it bluntly, it was just a few times faster than running on land. Only when one stepped into the legendary martial god realm could he merge himself with the world, ride the wind, step on the clouds, and travel thousands of miles in an instant. That was the real flying, the real transcendence of the world. Hallmaster. On the rostrum, the leader of the arbitration team immediately flew into the sky and bowed from afar. Greetings, Hallmaster Mu. Zhao Xingchen and the others also stood up and bowed with their fists clasped together. Their faces were filled with respect from the bottom of their hearts. No need to be so polite. The old man wore a smile on his face as he waved his hand across the sky. Nothing out of the ordinary could be seen from a few hundred zhang away, but Zhao Xingchen and the others could feel a gentle force gently lifting them up. The gentle voice was heard once again. Are these two kids having a group battle? This old man was the hallmaster of Xuanwu Empire's new show hall, the imperial protector, and the leader of the three top experts, Mu Qing. None of the people present knew exactly what his cultivation level was. He could only be sure that the person was at least a peak martial god, or even a legendary existence that had surpassed the martial god realm. Yes, hallmaster. Not bad at all. What are your names? The old man asked with a smile as he slowly descended beside Chen Hao and Yin Fenghan, who were bound by the light belts. He waved his hand lightly, and the light belts immediately disappeared. Senior, this disciple is Chen Hao from the Jinyuan Kingdom. Chen Hao, who was in shock, immediately calmed down and bowed in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. The Jinyuan Kingdom. Mu Qing repeated as if he was talking to himself. As he spoke, his gaze crossed the distance of a few hundred zhang, and looked at the spectator stand where the Jinyuan Kingdom was located. He smiled faintly as if he was greeting someone, nodded, and then withdrew his gaze. No one saw it, but the old man, Huang Qi, snorted coldly and turned his face away. He cursed in a voice that only he could hear. Impressive my ass if I hadn't. This disciple, the Star Luo Kingdom. Yin Fenghan. Under the old man's invisible pressure, Yin Fenghan actually could not control himself. His originally rooster-like voice became even sharper. Furthermore, it was trembling, and his speech was not light. Although he was aware of it, he couldn't avoid it at all. His soft and fair face flushed red. Not bad, not bad. The old man's gaze swept over the two of them, and then intentionally or unintentionally stopped on Chen Hao. After he finished speaking, he looked at the head of the arbitration team and said, "These two little fellows are people of great fortune, and are also rare geniuses. They are also ranked highly in our empire's new show hall. Make an exception and let the two of them tie for first place in the group. Let them both advance." Yes, hallmaster. Mu Qing's figure gradually faded and silently disappeared before everyone's eyes. No one had expected such an outcome. The competition still had to continue, but because of the shocking battle between Chen Hao and Yin Fenghan, as well as the appearance of the Xuanwu Kingdom's hallmaster, the following battles became dull in everyone's eyes. In the fifth group, Dongfang Jian successfully advanced and obtained first place in the group, winning another spot for the Jinyuan Kingdom. Including Chen Hao, there were 2 spots, which was enough to make the Jinyuan Kingdom proud. In the 8th group, Dongfang Jun went all out and obtained victory again. Luck, and also strength, won the 3rd spot for the Jinyuan Kingdom. Bai Lixi and Zhao Yunlong were expected to fail, but unexpectedly, Chen Hao and Dongfang Jun were the winners. In the 9th and 10th group, The 2 spots were both obtained by the Daqian kingdom. The Daqian kingdom was within everyone's expectations, but the weaker Zhenyuan kingdom soared to the sky. After deciding the 11 disciples who were qualified to participate in the new show hall, the head of the arbitration team directly gave out the prizes. The 11 of them each received 100 level 8 spirit herbs, 1,000 level 7 spirit herbs, and 10,000 level 6 spirit herbs. The kingdoms that the 11 of them belonged to received a set of level 8 to level 16 secret techniques. Chen Hao and the rest personally chose a set, and had the priority to cultivate it. This was the most important thing for the various kingdoms. Chen Hao, Dongfang Jian, and Dongfang Jun received 3 sets, a total of 29 secret techniques. This made the hall master, Zhao Xingqian, and the 2 vice hall masters overjoyed. As for the kingdoms that didn't receive the qualifications, their faces were gloomy as they returned to their kingdoms. Similarly, Chen Hao and the rest also received the qualifications to temporarily cultivate in the Xuanwu Kingdom's new show hall. By the time Chen Hao and the rest returned to the Zhenyuan Kingdom's courtyard, the sky was already completely dark. They suffered heavy losses, but fortunately, they had a bountiful harvest. Zhao Xingqian, the 2 vice hall masters, and Huang Qi called Chen Hao, Dongfang Jian, and Dongfang Jun to the conference hall. In the next 3 months, you will spend your time in the Xuanwu Kingdom and focus on cultivation. Especially Chen Hao, your cultivation base is too low, which restricts your combat power. If you can increase your cultivation by 1 or 2 grades within 3 months, you will definitely have the qualifications to enter the 100 Empire ranking. Dongfang Jian is also a possibility. Dongfang Jun, your combat power is the weakest. It was a coincidence that you were able to obtain a spot this time. Just treat it as a form of training. There's no need to risk your life. Your chances in the next realm will be huge. After everyone sat down, Zhao Xingqian went straight to the point. The 3 sets of level 8 to 16 absolute arts were all personally chosen by you. I think you will like them. For the time being, they will be kept by you. After 3 months, which is before the start of the new show competition, our new show hall will take them back. If you want to cultivate, you can borrow them at any time. At the same time, the set that you choose will also be granted the right to cultivate in your respective family. Of course, the kingdom will also reward your family greatly. The Dongfang family is very clear. Chen Hao, how do you want to reward them? What kind of reward? Chen Hao was slightly surprised. You are not a direct descendant of the Xiao family. It's up to you to decide whether you want to reward the main family or the Xiao family. However, I suggest that the material rewards go to the Xiao family and the honorable rewards go to your family. After all, your parents are ordinary people. It's more appropriate for the Xiao family to take care of it. Let's do as Hall Master says. Chen Hao said straightforwardly, but his brows were slightly furrowed. Speaking of family, Chen Hao thought of Xiao Jihan again. Although Elder Xiao now had the complete longevity secret art, his cultivation would definitely be able to advance rapidly. However, if he did not get rid of Xiao Jihan, it would still be a thorn in his heart. Especially since Xiao Jihan also had the complete longevity secret art. Furthermore, Xiao Jihan's character was definitely that of an ambitious and ruthless person. Furthermore, his talent and comprehension were similarly high. If he was still out in the open, Chen Hao would not be afraid at all. However, Chen Hao had no idea where Xiao Jihan had escaped to. Fortunately, there was no need to worry for the time being. Xiao Jihan should not appear for at least 2 or 3 years. Why, is there any problem? If there is, just say it. With your current status, not to mention the Hallmaster, even the king will give you face. If you can obtain the right to enter the 100 Empire ranking, you will directly rise to a transcendent status. Just like the Dongfang family's Dongfang Ting, she's very impressive. Huang Qi said casually when he saw Chen Hao frown. It's nothing, I'm just a little worried about my family. Chen Hao shook his head and said, Chen Hao, what do you mean? Dongfang Jun immediately said unhappily. I, Dongfang Jun, have a grudge with you because of Helian Wuxia. Beauty, I like you, so I like you. Originally, I wanted to kill you. But now, I admit that I'm not as good as you for the time being. I can still afford to lose. You can fly as high as you want. I, Dongfang Jun, am not stupid enough to use your family to vent my anger. Chen Hao looked at Dongfang Jun speechlessly and said, Did I say you? You have the Dongfang family, so you won't go against the rules of the martial way. It's best not to. Let's forget about the past. She's just a woman. There are plenty of fish in the sea. Zhao Xingqian, Huang Qi, and the rest looked at Chen Hao and Dongfang Jun strangely. Seeing that the two were no longer arguing, Zhao Xingqian said, Chen Hao, is there a problem with your family's safety? There won't be a problem for the time being. But it's hard to say in 2 or 3 years. If I'm not around, I'm afraid there will really be a problem. Chen Hao thought for a while and said it. After all, a person's strength was limited. His goal was to reach a higher level, so it was impossible for him to protect the Xiao family. If he could borrow strength, he would naturally borrow it. Tell me, what's the specific situation? Don't worry, no matter what the situation is, the Zhenyuan Kingdom will be your strongest backing. I guarantee that you will strive to reach a higher level without any distractions. Zhao Xingqian said without hesitation. Chen Hao briefly explained Xiao Jihan's situation and said, It's best if we can find him. An enemy who is hiding in the dark and will definitely do anything is like a fishbone stuck in our throat. It will take time, but as long as he didn't die in the wilderness, we can still find him. It's very obvious that he's missing 4 fingers. Also, tell me about his appearance. Chen Hao responded and did not say anything. Instead, a light flashed in his hand, and he took out the small knife and a piece of wood that his father had given him from his storage ring. Hiss hiss hiss. Instantly, wood shavings flew everywhere, and Xiao Jihan's appearance appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Huang Qi was still alright, as he already knew that Chen Hao had this unique skill. However, Zhao Xingqian and the others were all dumbfounded, especially when there was no energy fluctuation on Chen Hao's body. He had completely relied on the small knife itself to carve. Moreover, although the time was extremely short, everyone could sense a mysterious aura on Chen Hao's body. After leaving the meeting hall, Chen Hao directly knocked on Helian Wuxi's door. P.S. Looking for a recommendation vote. Thank you. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.